fishing, kind of tough fishing. And Kevin Short, who I'm excited to talk to tonight, he was talking about throwing a buzzbait. And so I went to Walmart and I bought a 99-cent buzzbait, one of those crappy little things. And that Saturday morning, it was my last Saturday before school. I was reeling in that buzzbait, and I mean, just reeling it in like the wind, just fast as can be. And about a 4 or 5 pounder blew up on it. And I was forever addicted, still am. But the one thing when I think about that story is going on in time, I joined a fishing club for a junior club. I joined a federation club. I got all this knowledge from people. And in the dog days that we're talking about tonight, tough fishing or just hot, just a lot of different conditions you see. You know, I learned about slowing down and all these great finesse techniques. And we're going to talk about those tonight. But what I kind of forgot for maybe a decade was catching that bass, burning a buzzbait in. So that just goes to show there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about tonight in different situations and scenarios and when calls for what. And I can't think of a better guest to have than Kevin Short. You know, he's you know, we'll talk more with him, you know, here pretty shortly, but man, just excited, was always a big fan of Kevin. But tonight I'm joined with a very special co-host. I can't think of a better co-host than Epic Eric. He is a fellow lover of the back of the boat. He's just an awesome co-angler. He's a super fish head, a friend of ours. We've had him on the show before. Love having him, and he's been a long time subscriber to Bass UTV. Eric Galasso, everybody. Eric,
man.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Well, man, I appreciate that intro, man, and thanks for having me tonight, man. Super stoked to be here to talk about what I think is a great topic, man. When it gets to be tough and you got to grind out the bites, that's when I like to dig down. And to have Kevin Short on tonight to talk about that and to really probe his experience and maybe the days when he did have a in the back of the boat. How did they do? You're in the front of the boat now. You've been in the back of the boat. So you've got a really unique perspective to bring. But, you know, how do you grind out those 5 bites? And if you're on a team, how do you contribute when you got a stud for a partner, right? That's leaving no stone unturned. We got a joke in, like when we're fishing docks, you know, the guy in the front's hitting all 4 sides of that pole. Of a round pole. So you've got very slim pickings. That's what I want to dig into tonight, amongst other things, but how to grind out a bite in the dog days of summer, man.
Yeah, I can't wait. And yeah, we'll talk tournament fishing. We'll talk, you know, team fishing. And with, you know, I might throw a few nuggets to our guys who just like fishing off the bank or fishing in a pond.
Heck yeah.
Great time of year to catch a big one in the heat, actually.
No question.
But, you know, we're also joined by our beloved producer and do-it-all man running the message board, Brian Carpenter, Riz B Fishing, Richard Ledbetter, Brian Stockel. What's up, guys?
Did you call me beloved? And what was Rich? Dude all man?
Yeah, he's the do-it-all.
Love to do it all.
Oh, do it all man.
You know what that means? It's like, hey, we need this to be done. Hey, Rich.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's like Leo Getz from what the hell movie was that?
What Leo gets for not Mr. Utility, not Inspector. What was it? Gadget, Inspector Gadget.
No, this was Mel Gibson was the cop with Danny Glover.
Oh, Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon. Yeah, Leo Getz. That was Joe Pesci.
Oh yeah.
Hey, whatever you need, Leo Getz. Hey, forget about it.
Hey.
All right. Well, what's going on? What's going on, guys? Anybody go fishing this weekend? I think Riz had a check, didn't he?
That guy.
Yeah. Fished the annual Five Alive Bassmaster. Shout out to Five Alive Bassmasters. That's a club we work with at the Bass University.
Yeah.
And they have their annual Labor Day tournament on Carnegie Lake up in North Jersey. I fish that lake once a year, every year for this tournament, and been able to sneak into a check the last few years and managed to snag a 3rd place finish this year during a dog days of summer type event, and it really kind of it mirrored what we're going to be talking about tonight, as far as, a grinder style event, not a ton of bites to be had. Just keep the bait in the water and, put it in front of enough to get those bites. Shout out to Rich Schreiner and Tim Daffick on the win with 14 pounds. We weighed in 11.8, good enough for third place with my good buddy Adam Satinoff. And, good weekend on the water. Happy to be back here again for another edition of Bass University Live, talking to all the folks on the message board.
That's right.
Awesome.
Me and my partner that I fished it with last year, we finished second. We couldn't fish it this year. My buddy Darren Brooks, his wife said no, so he wasn't allowed. If you guys, anyone on Instagram, give D Brooks 1088 is his Instagram. Give him a follow and slide them DMs. Tell him to grow a pair.
That's too good. Awesome. Now we're using the pedestal to call out.
To shame.
Because we're angry, we can't go.
Heck yeah, man.
Shame him.
The producer wields the power. Just remember.
Well, we all know that Pete's not here to rein it in, so we might just go many of those places tonight. But Riz, what do you got for us? What do our people need to be aware of tonight?
Yeah, guys. So as always, we're going to be taking care of our Bass U TV subscribers and some of our folks over on Facebook. And also during the show, I think Brian will come up with something for our YouTube folks. We're going to make sure that they're not forgotten about.
That's right. Bring it, people.
Yeah, but as always, for some questions tonight, we got some $25 Gills Gear gift cards going out the door. Yep. Guys, so if you're not a Bass U TV subscriber, now's a great time to get involved. Get signed up. Take a 30-day free trial. Use code BASSU or BU Live 30. And you can join tonight's show, ask some questions on the message board. And if we use it, we're hooking you up with a $25 Gills Gear gift card. Also, there's going to be a grand prize trivia package going out at the end of the show. That's $100 worth of products from our sponsors. We're going to come up with something from the show, a little bit of trivia quiz. And also, there's going to be a Facebook like and share. So if you're over there on Facebook, make sure that you like and share tonight's feed, and you'll be entered into a random drawing at the end of tonight's show to win a $50 prize pack. So, guys, it pays to be a Bass U TV subscriber. Don't wait. When we take our break in a few minutes, get signed up. Get yourself in the door for the best program in bass fishing.
That's right.
Yeah. So, guys, I want to go ahead and I want to define the topic for people watching out there. I want to define dog days because it's different everywhere you go. I'm down here in Georgia. I'm going to define it as like June to like it bleeds into October, like almost the full month for us. So it's the summer period, the late summer, the fall, transition into the fall. E, you're up there in the tri-state area, I guess, mid-Atlantic region. What's your dog day period?
Man, starting from, June-ish, like late June, you get that post-spawn in June, early June, but then it starts to depends on when that hot weather arrives, but for sure, July, August, September. We've got a Toyota series coming up on the Potomac. Super interested to see what happens. The river just got trashed with that major storm that came through. Got the tail end of Ida. It's muddy, a lot of debris. But they've got a few weeks for it to clear, but it's still going to be a tough bite. September can be extremely tough.
Yeah, it seems like, everything kind of comes together late August, September, where it doesn't matter where you're fishing. It can get cranky, For us, it's August, September, October. This is the three worst months out of the year. And I'm not going to say I've grown to love it, right? And we'll talk about that more on the show tonight, but it seems like those are they're just brutal fishing months. But when you learn a little bit about what the fish are doing, we can enjoy it more. We can have more success and enjoy it. And that's what we're here tonight to talk about. I'm not going to hold us up any longer. BTC, fire up that break, and if you got anything else to say, do it now.
Forever hold my peace until we get back from commercial break. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Richard.
Go sign up for Bass U if you're not signed up. Now's the time.
Dude.
We're giving you a couple minutes to do it. It's going to be worth it. I promise.
Do it.
40% off. I'm just going to plug it. Sorry, I have to because, I'm going to do a little show and tell later. But, like a VMC, discount Rapala DTs, 40% off. 40% off. Why are you overpaying for tungsten hooks, Nico hooks? I mean, the list is endless.
Pays for itself.
Really, I mean,
It's like a 2-for-1 almost on DTs. You kidding me? It truly does, Rich. Amen. I'm signed up. VIP program, Rapala, man, BMC. Done.
My man.
Do it. Do it. Do it.
Aquaview, the leader in underwater viewing technology. Find what you are looking for. Catch more fish. Have more fun. Aquaview. Seeing is believing.
Why do you love casting fishing rods?
I'm truly losing less fish.
Is the sensitivity of the rod.
That they're made right here in North Carolina in the USA.
Strongest, lightest rod, 100% made here in Sanford, North Carolina.
From the drop shot rod to the flipping stick. Every rod has a purpose to it, and I rely on them all the time when I'm out there in a tournament.
Durability in the John Cruz Worman series, the counterbalancing in the handle.
It's the only rod I found that can withstand my hook set. Boom goes the dynamite.
We're different. Some would say obsessed. There's no place on earth we'd rather be than right here, right now. Performance-driven gear, so you can fish longer, harder. Gill's Performance Fishing.
2021 Red Crest champion Dustin Connell here, and if you watch live coverage, we just got done at Lake Eufaula. I caught my fish using the active target with Lowrance. What you didn't see is I run a Sea-Clear power harness in my boat. One of the main advantages to running this harness is it does not drain my batteries down at all running my 4 units. And what that's going to allow me to do is I'm able to see my bait at 8 a.m. just as good late in the day. Y'all check them out at seaclearpower.com.
You take pride in your boat, so it deserves the best protection possible. Our durable woven fabric prevents ripping and provides UV protection, and our tape seams provide protection against the elements. The heavy-duty shock cord hem and strap and buckle system provide a tight and secure fit. Our top-of-the-line boat covers come with a ventilation system to keep your boat free from mold buildup. Empire Covers, protecting what you love.
And we're still back. Go ahead.
Words. We're back. We're live. Sorry, I looked down at my notes. Guys, we're back, and we're going to dive right into it. We are joined by a very special guest, an instructor at the Bass University. You can find him on Bass U TV. He's a 5-time Bassmaster winner, two-time Elite Series champion.
Yes.
I even went and looked up some other stuff. Guys, he won 4 BFLs. That's super crazy. One of them was a regional. He also had another 2-day. So when I started digging, everything confirmed that he was the right guest for the show, because you talk about, say, 5 Bassmaster wins, 4 BFL wins. That's 9 tournaments, and I know he's won a lot of money around the house. But I'd classify 5 or 6 of these, what I'll call major wins out of these 9, as that dog day period we just defined, you know, that June to September, October-ish. But anyways, he's also the international sales rep. Correct me if that's changed, but for Bass Cat boats, you know, me and Rich and Pete and Ike, we are loving our Bass Cats. But Kevin Short, everybody.
Woo!
Thank you, guys. Thank you,
What's
Justin.
up, Kev?
Appreciate that info. How we doing tonight?
Oh man, we're fired up, man. I'm trying to get geeked up for, down here we got our I haven't fished a tournament for about 3 months, and I've got 2 on the schedule in September. They're going to be brutal, so I'm trying to get my mind right. So I'm taking it.
I know you and Jimmy were on, your brother Jimmy Kimmel were on vacation all summer, so I know you had some time off there. But I see that he's back in the studio, so you're back in the studio too. That's good.
Yeah.
Hey, that's
not,
right.
not everybody knows that. I mean, I hope I didn't like bust you out there. Not everybody knows that's your
I
brother.
don't like to claim that too much. We're
Okay, I'm sorry.
we're on
Wait,
different terms,
time
so
out.
we see things a lot differently.
Jimmy Kimmel, like the Jimmy Kimmel. You like vacation,
like
the Jimmy Kimmel.
The Jimmy Kimmel. It's his brother.
Okay.
Did you not know that?
No, a car just screeched in my front yard. It was me driving.
Yeah,
what?
That's him. That's his brother. Not everybody. I thought everybody knew that.
That's a twin brother too.
Obviously not.
I'm slack jawed.
Twin brother. Yeah,
you're either punking me like incredibly. This is the biggest punk ever, right? Like on live, or that's for real. Seriously, honestly, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Justin Kimmel, do solemnly swear on my mama's life that Jimmy Kimmel is my brother.
Probably. Listen,
This is just
it's
too
never.
great.
Eric,
Too great podcast content.
yeah, it's never been proved not to be the case.
Okay, thank you very much.
All
I
right.
appreciate that.
For what it's worth, we lost touch with that side of the family. My grandmother told me if they spell it the same, I'm related to them. But I don't ever really claim them. Like I said, we live on two different coasts.
That's pretty good.
What a slacker! I don't claim that slacker.
He can't catch. He can't win no boat.
Yeah.
He can't win a derby. Who cares? Talk show, small show. You got your bass show, brother. You win. That's it.
Right, man. Well, Kevin, man, you got all these great finishes. And I was just talking about the wins. You had a really amazing career before you hung it up. What are we 4 or 5 years now?
Last year fishing the Elite Series was 2015.
Okay.
And then I fished, did MLF for 3 more years after that.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've been away from the kind of the top there for about 3 years now, and perfectly happy with them. I started in 2015. I started handling the international sales for Basscat, and last year they gave me the West Coast too. So now I'm like the Western domestic and international sales director.
Okay.
For whatever that's worth. For Basscat and Yarcraft, which is our walleye boats.
Awesome.
So yeah, I handled pretty much everything west of Oklahoma and everything outside the U.S.
Nice.
That's awesome. You're still around the sport. I take it you still love the sport. How are you still whetting your appetite for, or are you?
Well, you just got a win this past weekend, didn't you, Kevin?
Yeah. I mean, I gotta beat up on the local kids here every chance that I get, which is not very often because usually I'd be giving them my lunch money, But every once in a while, the old farts kind of figure something out and make it happen. But I still fish when the schedule works out right. I still fish the Bassmaster Opens. I actually go out west and fish some of the one bass stuff there.
Oh, nice.
At Lake Havasu, fish the U.S. Open at Lake Mead every year.
Oh, awesome.
There's a couple of tournaments in Canada that try and fish, and then try and fish over in Japan. They have a couple of tournament series over there. I try and fish up until last year when I could get over there. Try and fish 1 or 2 of those. So I mean,
very cool.
And I still fish quite a bit around the house. Here, I mean, I would say the last 2 years, I've probably fished more tournaments within 2 hours of the house than I have in the last 15 years.
Wow.
Just because I've been home.
Sure.
And no, I don't win them all. Yeah, I win a few. But I mean, I get my butt kicked just like everybody else does. But usually it was that, like Justin said, man, when it's really tough, I've always been able to figure out how to catch them. And a lot of that, I think, comes from when I first started competitive bass fishing. I mean, we didn't have any really super good lakes in Arkansas at the time. Fished a lot of stuff on the Arkansas River. And actually, when I started fishing, it was actually really good, but then it went into one of those periods where it declined. And it was, if you caught 9 or 10 pounds, I mean, you were a stud. So I've seen, and we've had some really good lakes over the years. Ouachita kind of boomed there for a while, and I mean, it'd take mid-20s to win. Dardanelle kind of boomed for a while, and it'd take mid to upper 20s to win tournaments there. So I mean, we've seen a lot of this in the lakes here in the state, and that's helped. I know that's helped shape me when I had to go somewhere that it was just tough to get a bite, as well as, being able to fish some of those lakes when they were really good, and going to like an Amistad or going to a Falcon or going to a Gunnersville where fishing is really good. You kind of know what to expect.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think that's, that's the thing that popped out to me when I was reminding myself of all your high tournament finishes. Do you think that that grinder style, I guess we want to call that 9 to 10 pounds, that period that you kind of grew up on, is that what helped you out the most?
Probably so, because I mean, when it's super tough and you're looking for, I mean, literally you're trying just to get 5 bites a day. Yeah. Knowing that if you just put 5 fish in the boat, you're going to do, you may not win, but you're going to do reasonably well. Cause years ago, I read something that Clun wrote that said that the tough, and he was right. I mean, he was dead on. He said the tough tournaments are the easiest ones to win, because when you're sitting there, the really tough ones where it's just hard to get a bite. When you take off in the morning, 50% of the field is toast. They're done. Yeah. They have, I mean, they're those, you got half the guys sitting there just hoping that they get a bite. So they're, you can forget about those. They're done. So those, the really, really tough ones can be the easiest ones to win if you keep your mind correct. If you, and it all goes, a lot of it goes back to your own attitude and how you approach the day. And, if you go out there saying, oh my God, I'm going to suck, this is going to be a shitty day. And can we say that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. This is going to be a horrible day, man. I'm not going to catch them. It's going to be hot. The water's muddy, the water's high, whatever the excuse is. If that's the way that you take off in the morning, well, I got some bad news, man. You might as well just put it back on the trailer and go back to the house. Because, you're done. But, if you go out there thinking, okay, and it doesn't, whether you practice or don't practice, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you just go out there saying, okay, I need to figure out how to catch a fish, just get one bite. Just get one bite and then work off of that bite. Okay. The next bite leads you to the next one. And it's, there's, I see a lot of guys that, and I've been guilty of this. We've all been guilty of this because we all fish tournaments. We know exactly when you put your boat in the water in the morning and you're sitting there ready to take off, you know exactly how you're going to catch them that day. And that is the absolute worst thing that you can do, because every single day is not like the day before, and it's not going to be like the day after. Every single day is unique. The conditions are going to be different. Something is going to be different. And the more I approach a tournament day with, I don't know jack crap about what's going on, the better off I do. And I'm saying, and I say that, you can use, if you did practice for it the day before, you can use maybe what, if you found an area that has a bunch of bait in it, or the watercolor looks better, or whatever. Obviously, you want to use that. You don't just want to throw that out, maybe that's where you want to start and work off of that. You've got to use what you did find that was positive in practice. If you practice, use that, but don't go in there thinking, man, I'm gonna catch them flipping today. Well, you might catch them on a crankbait. You might catch them on a spinner. You might catch them on a buzz bait. You don't know how you're going to catch them. You just need to be ready and keep your. You need to be a learner and not a knower.
Yeah.
There's learners. There's people that look forward, and they're always trying to learn something each and every day. And then there's people that know everything. And if you don't believe me, just ask them, because they know everything. Well, the knowers, I guarantee you that the guys that are learners, the guys that are constantly trying to figure out and put the pieces to the puzzle together, I promise you that learners win more tournaments than knowers do. Because knowers know what they're going to catch them on. They know where they're going to catch them. They know what they're going to catch before the day even starts. But I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work out that way. Because I can promise you the overwhelming majority of tournaments that I've ever either done well in or actually won did not turn out the way that I thought they were going to.
Wow.
Especially a 3 or a 4 day event, between the time the event started and by the time it was all over with, it's never the same. It's always different. You got to win a 4-day event, man, 90% of the time you've got to adjust each and every single day, and sometimes each and every hour.
Very true.
It can be different. So be a learner, not a knower. There you go. That's K-Pink's tip for the evening.
And that's an amazing way to start this conversation out. The mentally strong survive the dog days, those tough tournaments.
Oh,
what you're talking
absolutely.
about, for the co-angler guys, I know E and I have talked about it. Changing within the moment matters so much when you're trying to just come up with 5 from the back of the boat. But just this time of year specifically, that's some great stuff. Kevin, I want to go back. I have no clue where this next question is going to take us. All I know is I look at it on paper. I look at it on paper and I see dog days written all over it. August 21 through 23, 2003 Central Open, your first Bassmaster victory on the Tennessee Tom Bigby Waterway out of Columbus, Mississippi in August. Gross. 39 pounds, won a 3-day, I assume it was a 3-day open back then. 39 pounds, 4 ounces. Kevin Short wins his first Bassmaster victory.
Man, I wish I had. I've got a copy of the Bass Times. I think I've got it downstairs in the safe. But if you look at the copy, if you look at that copy of the Bass Times, I've got a pair of black shorts on. And if you look like just at the waistband of those black shorts, you can see like the salt and the sweat that is like crusted all around my waist. I mean, it's Columbus, Mississippi in August. It is
gross,
nasty. I'm talking
crazy.
Nasty.
I love it.
It's as slick, greasy, snotty, sweaty, nasty as you can imagine. Okay. I mean, it's like, passing out type hot, hotter than hell, absolutely no wind. And I figured out 2 little areas, and it was one of those deals where you just wanted to get 5 bites every day. The guys that got 5 bites every day were the guys that were in the top 5, 6, or 7. Wow. And there wasn't, I don't remember being a whole lot of us that got 5 bites a day. The first day I got 5 and I left. The second day I got another 5. I might have culled one time the second day, but what I did is I actually found I found kind of that area within an area on the second day that seemed to be holding bigger fish. And it was very much it seemed to be a time thing. You know, you had to be there at the right time. The second day I got in there a little bit earlier and figured out, okay, I need this is the time to be here, and actually, help myself there a little bit by culling. And the third day, basically I went to it and kind of plinked around and actually caught a limit in that area, kind of waiting for the sweet spot to kind of juice up. And when it did, it was like bit slapping on.
Dang.
It was unbelievable. If you look at the weight, I think the first day I probably had, I don't know, I had 6 or 7 pounds. I think the second day I had 7 or I had maybe 8 or 9 pounds. And then the third day, I think I had 15 or 16 or something.
Wow.
Whoa. Just smoked them. Absolutely. Biggest bag of the day, or the biggest bag of the week, the last day. That's not the only time that I did that. I actually did it again at the Open on Table Rock in 2010. I had just a couple of fish the first day, a couple of fish the second day, and then the third day, figured out, dialed it in narrower, and then the third day, had 16, 17 pounds and just crushed them. And it's, you've got to keep your head down, keep focused, and keep learning every single day. That's the key to it, man. It's just figuring it out a little bit better every single day in a multi-day tournament.
That's awesome. Eric, what you got, man?
That was really good stuff.
That is really good stuff. Yeah. I want to go back to that dog day tournament, Ohio River type of weights. How did you, once you started and dialed into the area, not excluding the last day, for that 6 or 7 pounds that kept you in the hunt, how did you trigger the bites? What was the technique and pattern once you found your area and then worked on the timing?
I think that first Open that I won, I think every single fish that I weighed in all 3 days were all caught on some type of crankbait. And it was that area down there has, I doubt that it's still there, but at the time there was a lot of backwater areas that had a lot of standing timber in them.
Oh, nice.
And the fish were actually suspended around either the stumps or around the trees that were still, they had a lot of live cypress trees in it.
Sure.
The fish were actually suspended around those trees. They weren't really on the bottom. There was a lot of guys in there that were trying to flip the stumps, trying to flip the trees, and they were catching a few. But by figuring out, the depth that I needed to be at with the crankbait, I feel like I was able to do better and get more bites for running a crankbait around that stuff from the side. And obviously that's a front end of the boat kind of thing. The guy in the back of the boat is screwed.
That's a tough one.
It is tough, and I'll tell you. I've told every single one of my co-anglers, when it's been that scenario, and I know it's going to be tough to fish from the back of the boat. I've told every single one of them, look, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. And, all I can tell you is you're going to be around them, and it's up to you to figure out how to catch them, because I know this is going to work for me. Doubt that it's going to work for you, but you're going to be around them.
There you go. What were your 2 follow-up questions? What was your crankbait lineup in that derby? What was the successful crankbait, or was there more than one? Oh my gosh, if he pulls one off the wall, it's going to be awesome. And then I'll wait till he gets back to ask the follow-up. So, all right. So the successful crankbait we get to see first. And then my follow-up question is, if you were allowed to tell your co, let's say flip the switch, it's a team derby, and you got to crank that standing timber and stumps to catch them. What are you going to tell your co? And the co's never been to this water. He's got no experience. Let's say he's a guy like me. What are you going to put in my hand with your knowledge and experience? And I just show up like I get teleported into your boat. And I've got one rod and one reel. What am I throwing? So let's talk about the crankbait first.
As best I remember, I actually used 3 different crankbaits. Two of them the first day. One of them was a Bagley Killer B2, or no, a Deep Killer B2.
Oh, DKB, man.
Yeah, I don't remember what the color was now. I mean, I would suspect it was probably just something real simple like Tennessee shad.
Sure.
Nothing real outrageous, because the water was pretty clear. I mean, it was the water was dark.
Okay.
It was kind of tannic, but it was clear. So it was probably a Tennessee shad.
All right. Lead in the lip, old Winter Haven one. Lead in the lip, or no lead in the lip on that DKB?
No, not the one with the lead. No.
Okay.
Just a regular DKB 2. I also had and that was, I mean, those fish were probably 5 to 6 foot deep. They weren't super deep.
Sure.
I had some that were a little bit shallower, or in the morning they might be a little bit shallower, and I would actually catch. Norman had just come out with a little bait called the thin end. It's a little kind of a little pumpkin seed looking bait with a little coffin bill. And we had actually taken a buddy of mine that worked for Norman at the time, and I had been catching them on a little similar bait that was made out of wood, but it was flat sided.
Mm-hmm.
It had kind of the action. I mean, it had a really good tight action, and Norman had a bait at the time that was shaped kind of like the thin end, but it was a round bait.
Mm-hmm.
We actually heated some of them up in boiling water and put them between two 2x4s in a vise and flattened them out.
That's
because
awesome.
we wanted a flat-sided plastic bait. And at the time, nobody built a flat-sided plastic bait. So
wait a minute. No way, man. For real? Not even the thin end? I mean, the thin end from man?
Making this shit up, man. Come on.
What year is this?
God. We actually took I think it was called a mad end or something. It was a little round.
They didn't have the thin man from Man's back then? Mike Iaconelli had a hand in it, man. The little speedy man. I don't know.
Hell no.
All right, keep going, man.
We didn't have any of that junk. So we actually flattened some of these out and took them and started catching fish on them.
That's so crazy.
So that, I mean, I was using that, and then the last day, or the second day, I got out in some deeper timber. I had a limit, and I pulled into this bigger area that had a lot of green cypress trees in it, and it was, man, the water in there was probably 12 to 14 foot. It was deeper water, and I saw a lot of big gizzard shad roaming around these trees, and I was like, oh my God, if these dudes are roaming around in here, there's got to be somebody in here that would eat them, So I actually caught one that was probably about 3 pounds, which improved my bag dramatically that second day. Yeah, and that third day, the morning of the third day, it's like, well, hell, I know exactly where I'm going. I'm staying there all day, until I figure it out. And I went in there, caught a little limit on the shallow up there in 3 or 4 foot of water on the little thin end. And then it seems like about 11 or so, I got out in the deeper timber with this dude and just absolutely smoked them. This is the Balsa B3. And
custom painted. Lavender shad.
Yeah. This one's painted. If I remember right, I was throwing it on 15-pound fluorocarbon. So, I mean, it was running maybe 4 or 5 foot because you couldn't make a real long cast because of all the trees. But it was the closest thing that I had to those bigger gizzard shad. And I don't remember what the weight was that day, but it was more than anybody else had caught any day of the tournament.
Yeah,
man, I
blew everybody else away.
What's up with that red hook?
Yeah, man.
I mean, dude,
that's a gamakatsu, baby.
You bet.
That's a gami.
That bait, I mean, literally, it's been sitting over there on that trophy since 2003.
Dude, that's so awesome, man. Look at the paint shoot off the hook.
All right,
off the hook.
Let's talk about why it's red. Are you a red hook on your crankbaits guy, or is it just like by chance, or what's going on there?
Nah, that's a bullshit thing.
I love it though.
I don't believe you.
Man. That's all that is.
No.
That's all.
Man.
That's all right here. I promise.
No, because look, Kevin.
So Kevin, how many?
Kevin, hold on. Rich, I got an important point. Look what happens to the hook when the paint gets chewed off. There's some gold underneath them hills,
gold.
baby.
You bet.
And it gets better as they chew it up, Rich.
So let me tell you this. My wife is, when she was a kid, her dad owned a dive shop, like scuba diving. I mean, she's like a, whatever the diving certification group is, she's like a class 27 dive instructor and has been since she was like 16. Okay. I mean, that's what she grew up doing. They grew up going all around the world diving in all these really cool places. And I came home after buying probably a couple $100 worth of red hooks, and I was showing them to her and telling her how to fish. You know, they really attracted to that red under the water and everything. She looked at me. She says, "You know what the first color to disappear underwater is?"
Red.
I'm like, "No, what is it?" It's red.
Well, maybe that's why. Maybe that's why
they can't see the hook because they inspect it when it's zooming by them on that. No, they can't see that hook anyway, man. They're just biting it.
Hey, as fast as I'm bringing it home,
hell no.
I promise you.
So you were crashing. Anyway. You were crashing the bait to trigger the strikes, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, you had to. If you did not hit one of the trees or limbs,
we're gonna have to talk more about
this. You were not, dude. You weren't going to get a bite. No,
right.
You had to. I mean, every fish that I caught, you had to hit the cover. Had to.
Round bend or EWG on your trebles? I see both round. I mix them, round and an EWG. I'll do one of each. Do you care?
You know,
does it matter?
With smallmouth, I prefer EWGs.
Interesting.
Because I know for a fact that they hold better, but I feel like because on an EWG, I mean, if you look at an EWG, the point on the hook is actually pointing in towards the shank.
That's right.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that actually makes that hook harder to hook a fish. I mean, if it's pointing straight out like this, it's easier to hook a fish than if that point is angled in. Okay.
Right.
However, with smallmouth, they are typically so ferocious and so vicious when they bite a moving bait like that hooking them is not a problem. I mean, they most of the time they hook themselves. Largemouth, spotted bass, and our southern smallmouth are usually not that aggressive. So if the fish are super aggressive, I don't have a problem with EWGs. For finicky fish, or fish that are not quite as aggressive, I am not a fan of the EWG style hook. Okay,
the slashing.
My 2 cents.
Okay,
you know this is some great stuff, guys. This conversation, and I want to get back to this tournament. Most of all, the point I wanted to bring out, what Kevin said about this story, is he caught low weights. He had a total of 39 pounds. He caught low weights, under 10 pounds a day, and then came back with a big bag. That is what I feel like is possible everywhere you go this time of year. Where, yes, to get in the money or just to have a good day of fishing, 5 bites is good. But the opportunity at a just drop the mics type of bag is there. Do you believe that to be true, Kevin?
Yes, I believe that. And it's, I'm not going to say it's easier to do this time of year, but you're exactly right. It is possible to do it because, I mean, you know, the biologists have told us for years that the hotter the water is, the more, the higher the metabolism is for the fish and the more they have to eat. Now, they may not eat and they may not be aggressive all day long. There may be an incredibly small window that they're going to feed in, but when they do feed, it's going to be ferocious. That's the reason that a lot of times in the summertime, early fall, you see, you know, a lot of fish, you know, what we call in the South schooling, where they're chasing bait, they're bunching them up, and it typically happens for a short period of time, either first thing in the morning or right before dark, and that's it. Yep. And in between, it's hard to get a bite. Well, guess what? That's because, you know, those fish that's the time that they are actively feeding. It doesn't, you know, there's not a lot of places where it goes all day long. Now, as the water, as the temperatures and the water cools down, it will happen all day long in some lakes, okay? But when it's, you know, when the water temperature is still in the 80s, 90s, it's a real short window. And if you're there in the right place at the right time, it's fantastic. And if you're not in that right place at the right time, it can be pretty sucky, you know. And you know, my team partner and I won a tournament last Saturday. It was the same exact thing. I mean, I had found a little area on the river that had a bunch of shad in it, and I'd caught two little spotted bass. And I thought, well, you know, we'll run down here the first thing in the morning. We'll try and catch us 5, you know, little spotted bass, get us a limit, you know, that weighs maybe 6 pounds. And then we'll worry about catching a largemouth, you know, and upgrading as the day goes on. Well, we rolled down to this little place that, you know, seemed to have a bunch of spotted bass in it. The first I caught one that was 3 and a 3-pound largemouth, and it had a 2-pound largemouth on the other hook on the lipless, and there was 4 or 5 others swimming around it. I was like, what? What's going on here? Well, the next one I caught was like 3.5, and then I caught a 4 1/4. And I'm like, what? I had no idea. All I knew is I wanted to go down there and catch me 5 little spotted bass. And we wound up catching a limit there, you know, and in the first 45 minutes.
That's crazy.
That went down.
And it was like right place, right time.
Yep.
You know,
man,
right bait.
Isn't that the truth?
And the right bait. Yeah.
Rich, I know we've got a ton of questions coming on the message board. I want to give them a chance to ask. We'll dive right back in here with Kevin, but I know we want to give away some prizes too, so have at it.
Hey, real quick, back to Eric's second question.
Yeah.
If you had been in the back, the guy that was in the back of my boat that last day on the Tom Bigby, he asked me, he said, what can I throw behind? After I told him what I was doing, he said, what can I throw behind you? I said, the best thing for you to throw is a double willow 1/2 ounce spinnerbait. Try and get it up against the trees, and you will, if you get it up against the trees, you will catch a fish. And he did.
All right.
That's the answer to your question. All right.
That's awesome, man.
Now let's give away some stuff.
Good stuff, man.
I think the right answer was a Senko, but good answer anyhow, Kev.
Pete's not here.
Pete's not here.
You bet. Pete's not here.
That's always the right answer if we got old PDG on the show with us. But as always, guys, we're gonna throw in a few questions here from our awesome Bass University subscribers. And the first question I'm gonna go with is from Matt Gowdy, and Matt Gowdy's gonna win himself a $25 Gills Gear gift card for this question. Woo! And Matt wants to know, what is the most underrated summer fishing lure for the dog days of summer? And also, what is the most overrated lure for the dog days of summer?
Wow.
So let's hit both sides.
Yeah, I like the
What's
second part.
What's the most underrated? What's the most overrated? Man, I got to go. Wow.
Come on.
That's really going to depend on where you're at. I'm going to answer it for where I'm at.
Yes.
Okay. I think the most underrated, probably the most underused, would be a lipless crankbait.
Ooh.
Okay. I know a lot of guys, around here, a lot of guys throw them early in the year when the water's cool, when the water's warming up, throw them around the grass, whatever. But it seems like after the fish get out of that pre-spawn mood, guys put their lipless crankbaits away and don't think about them. But it is the perfect shad imitator. You can fish it a foot deep, you can fish it 30 foot deep, and everywhere in between. And it catches everything, and it catches every size of everything. Okay. The most overrated.
Say it.
Man, most overrated is probably freaking Cinco.
Oh, yeah. You just made Brian's night. Show of the year, Kevin Pink, right here.
Show's over. Thanks for coming. Thanks for put a pin on it. It's wrapped up. Appreciate y'all coming on tonight.
You hear that, Pete Glusick?
He's watching in New York.
Man,
crying.
I don't know that there's anything that you can really say is overrated, because there's a lot of baits that guys don't think about that will catch fish in the summertime. A lot of guys don't think about a topwater bait as being a good, they think about it early in the morning, late in the evening.
Sure.
Dude, you can catch some giant fish on it right in the middle of the day, especially like, a little popper, something like that. It's awesome in the summertime. So but yeah, the Cinco around here is just bad overrated. I'm sorry.
Right.
So what's the next question?
That was great. We're going to end the show.
Yeah.
We're ending on a high note, baby. I love
We're out. See you.
That's a drop the mic moment.
Cheers.
That's too good. What else you got, Rich?
The next question is from Tom S. in Chicago. And Tom S., I hope that you're credible with your sources here, because I didn't fact check it. But apparently, Kevin, you spent some time fishing in Japan. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, good. What is your favorite technique that you picked up while fishing in Japan? And what lure would you say was the most popular used while you were in Japan?
Maybe.
The one technique that I've used the most that I never saw till I went over there was they have what they call a free rig. I mean, you guys have probably seen it now.
Yep. We got an interview on Bass U TV about it, actually.
Okay. Well, the first time I went over there, it's been 5 or 6 years ago now. That was the first time that I'd ever seen it. And it is, for those of you that don't know, it's basically a hook. I mean, just a EWG, a wide gap hook, whatever kind of. It's usually done with soft plastics, whatever soft plastic you like to use. For you Cinco lovers, if you want to use it on a Cinco, that's fine. That's not considered gay or anything. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So you've got a hook, and they have these little cylindrical weights that actually, instead of having like a pin or an anchor at the top, it's actually got a little loop molded into the top of the weight, so it slides up and down your line. So basically, you thread this little weight on, you tie your hook on, put whatever soft plastic that you want on, and the soft plastic is actually up off the bottom just a little bit, and when it really comes into play is when you drag it along, the plastic kind of it truly swims freely behind the weight, and it's kind of a finesse technique. But I mean, if you want to throw it on 20-pound line, you can certainly do that. I mean, if you want to throw it on 8-pound line, you can certainly do that. So I mean, a wide variety of bait, and it gives the fish a little bit different look, a little bit different presentation to a Texas rig that holds the bait right, pegs it right to the bottom.
So a free swinging Texas rig, like it's an unpegged Texas rig. Why won't that?
It's not
be
the same.
same?
It doesn't have the same. It doesn't have the same action. And I actually did that. Didn't peg the weight, but it just the way that the weight actually sits up off the bottom just a little bit. So your bait's up here instead of being down here on the bottom. It just gives it
it's a drop shot weight with a little circle.
It's like a little pencil drop shot weight, but instead of having the little pin at the top, it's got a loop, or a perfectly round loop at the top of the weight, so it actually slides up and down your line.
Yeah, well, that's amazing, and I'm glad you brought that point, because Pete and I were having a conversation last week about this rig and trying to figure out what's the difference. Is it really going to be that? And I think you hit the nail on the head for the subtle differences that our friends in Japan are so good at finding. And here's the deal: the winning co-angler of the Toyota Series at St. Lawrence won on heavy line, free rigging, like 5-inch Cinco. On the I
can believe it.
And he smashed.
I can believe it.
So wow.
Probably going in the tackle stores over there. It depends on which side of the island you're on. If the tackle stores around Lake Biwa tend to have more hard baits, whether it's big swim baits, whether it's crankbaits, jerk baits, whatever. The tackle stores on the eastern side of the island, where the river systems are and the smaller lakes, they tend to have more soft plastics.
How about that?
And not as many hard baits. Because it seems like most of the anglers that fish Lake Biwa, they're looking, they want to catch big mama. So you see a lot of guys out there chunking 12, 13-inch swim baits, depending on the time of year, obviously. But they're into throwing big stuff, because they have bigger fish, obviously in that lake. The guys on the river systems on the eastern side of the island, they're just wanting to get bit. They're just looking to catch a 2-pounder. So those typically are more of your finesse guys.
That's New Jersey. They're the New Jersey guys.
That's New Jersey, exactly. You got it.
Very interesting, Kevin.
I bet you they got better food on that side of the island, though. Is that correct? Yes.
Which side?
The island with the small fish.
Which side? East side, west side?
East side. Food's better.
Dude, everywhere that I've been over there, the food's pretty damn good.
Oh,
I can't. I'm not going to start a civil war by saying east side, west side. It's all good. I have no problem eating any of it.
But JK, that
stuff with eyeballs.
Right. That free rig makes sense in current, though, if you think about it.
Exactly.
It's just like an old bell sinker that you got as a kid when you went catfishing, man. I mean, if you want to get cheap, just go to Walmart and buy a bell sinker and paint it with a Sharpie black or nail polish. And if you don't mind the size of it, and frankly, it probably would disturb the bottom a bit more. It might not get down as fast, but you don't have to buy tungsten to do it. Yeah. And those sinkers are uber cheap.
Yeah, better than that. The bigger it is, the less likely it's getting snagged in the zebra mussels.
100%.
That's true. Yeah,
I learned that at the St. Lawrence.
Yep.
Good stuff. Great stuff.
And it wasn't a Senko. It was a G-Crack bellows stick.
Oh, that's right.
G-Crack bellows stick.
Rich, we want to go one more before we dive back in.
Yeah, let's do one more for now. I mean, I'm sure we'll bring in more later.
I got some from YouTube too when you're done.
Okay. This next question is going to be from Howie Range, and he's gonna win himself a $25 gift card to Gills with this as well. Because it's a crankbait question, and we got some crankbait guys on the message board right now, or on the show right now, the panel, and Howie Range wants to know, Kevin, what are the situations that you go more towards the flat or slender style crankbaits as opposed to the round-bodied crankbaits?
Most of the time, that's going to depend on the cover.
Okay. I would have thought water.
The easier it is to get hung up, the more I'm going to go round, because round baits typically have less weight in them and they have more flotation, and they actually will float up away from the cover and get hung up less. If it's something like, I'm fishing maybe just single logs or just small pieces of wood, a lot of times then I'll throw more of a flat-sided bait, because typically those are smaller, have a smaller profile, and mimic, smaller bluegill, smaller shad, whatever. But they will, because they're flat-sided, they're thinner, lighter. They typically won't have as much weight in them, and they won't have as much flotation in them either. Okay, you got to have a certain amount of weight just to be able to throw them. And typically with those smaller baits, by the time you get enough weight in them, what in the hell is flying around your face, Red?
There's fruit flies flying around the studio right now, man, and I'm just in here throwing hands trying to grab them up, dude.
You shadow boxing, man. You were like shadow boxing a ghost.
Yeah.
The flat-sided baits are typically going to float up slower away from the cover. If it's like real thick, gnarly stuff, man, I'm not going to throw a flat-sided bait in there unless I absolutely have to, because it's more than likely going to get hung up. Whereas a round bait, they're typically, unless those are weighted really heavy, those are going to float higher. They're also going to go, typically those are going to have a bill, more like this. It's got a little bit more angle on it, and they're going to go through the water a little bit more down to keep that front hook away from getting snagged up. I hope that answers your question. Thank you, Tom S. from Chicago.
Oh, that was Howie Range, but it was a great
Sorry,
answer.
Apologies.
Great answer, nonetheless. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and take the floor myself here. And the next question is going to come from Jimmy's River Rat Saloon. And
be curious.
Yeah, he wants to know in the dog days of summer on that Delaware River tournament that you fished, Kevin. What were some of the key features that you were seeing in the creek down a little more southerly than most people would venture? What were some of the key features that clued you in down there, and talk a little bit about some of the things that made you decide to fish down there? What was the deal?
I know the number one, but go
ahead. There's actually two things that made me decide to stay down there. One of them was the amount of bait that I was actually in there one day. I think the one day that I went down there, I got in there as the tide was coming out, and I was actually in there when it bottomed out. Oof. And I was, all the way in the back, actually bottomed out, and the whole back end of that creek was loaded with grass. A lot of it was hydrilla, and it was like the most perfect nursery pond that you've ever seen. And there was all kinds of little bluegill and shad, small bass, and when the tide fell out that day I was in there, it was it got gin clear, and I could see everything all across the back of that creek, and I was just amazed. And I actually caught several fish in there going in, so I knew that there was bass in there. I had no idea how many, but I knew there was some, and I knew they weren't going anywhere, because they were going to live in the back of that creek. But seeing all of that bait and knowing that there was a few fish in there, and all I had to do was get in there and figure out how to catch 5 the first day, how to catch 5 the second day, and then work off of that. That was probably the most important thing. The second most important thing is I only saw one other boat in that creek.
Yeah.
The whole week of the tournament, I only saw one other boat in that creek.
Right. How tide affected did it get back there on you? Like, was it stable in the sense that were you able to fish through the tides and feel like you could get bites through the, what we would consider the bad water? And for people that aren't watching, we're talking about the Delaware River, back of a creek, where, typically, high water it becomes tough water. How did it hold up for you through the higher tides?
We were down there every day. The tide was falling. I never had to deal. I don't think I had to deal with it being full until maybe the last day. And the way that the tide was running then, it wasn't full for very long before it started falling back out again. So I don't really remember having a really dead period, but because of weird, because it was further downriver,
right?
That it was totally different,
right?
Yeah,
Very
it was
back
totally
of the creek.
different from guys fishing the upper river,
right?
The tide was, and it didn't fall as dramatically down there as it did further up, because it was, there wasn't a 9-foot fluctuation in the back of that creek, because that was 6 or 7 miles off the river. You didn't have time. It didn't have time to fall all the way out before it started coming back in.
Right.
So it was almost like the whole time I was in there, the water was moving one way or the other because it was so far off the river back in there.
Yeah.
Now, if it had been, a shorter creek, maybe only a mile or two.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would have, like some of the other creeks further up. I mean, the tide, you'd have like a 6, 7, 8 mile an hour current going out when the tide fell, and then coming back in, and it would fall, 6, 7, or 8 foot. Well, this was so far off of the river that it just didn't affect it that much. So it was just shit ass luck is all that was.
That's river rat, man.
I mean,
you were river rat.
But
luck,
that
man.
yeah, but the tide fluctuation changes daily. You have high means and then of course you've got the wind factor, and so that's constantly changing.
I had to steal the floor there.
No,
I mean,
that was awesome, dude.
Dog days of summer. That's a condition on the Delaware River pretty much 365 days a year.
Yeah,
of just
dog
hard days of just dogs of fishing.
I think that was K Pink's river rat soul just going to the back of a creek that's 10 miles long. I mean,
and no one else is in.
That's river rat man talking in his soul. I'm telling you.
Something you guys don't know. I think it was the second, maybe it was the third day that I got in there. The tide was almost bottomed out first thing in the morning. And there was one section there that had some trees that were laid down.
I know the one you're talking
in the river.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had the first 2 days, I'd been able to kind of scooch around the end of it and get up over the limbs and go on back in there. And then when I came out, the water was up and it wasn't any problem. That last day I was going in and it was almost bottomed out. And I had to actually cut one of the limbs. I had to cut a couple of the limbs off to get around the end of it, to get over that little mud flat to get back in the creek. So, I mean, I'm up there. And of course, my observer can't help. I mean, he can't hold the boat. He can't do anything. All he can do is sit there and watch.
Yeah.
Thank God for power poles, because I was actually able to, pull right up, drop the power poles, do my cutting, get the limbs out of the way, and then go on. So I do that, go back in there, catch me another limb, come back. I get back to weigh-in. I get checked in. I idle up there, or pull up to the little weigh-in thing, and one of the tournament officials comes down. He looks at me and he says, "I just want you to know we're not going to have to disqualify you."
What?
I'm like, "Do what? Disqualify me for what? I just got here. I haven't done anything." "Yeah, we're not going to have to disqualify you for cutting that limb." And I'm like, "What are you talking about, cutting the limb?" Well, they were evidently, I didn't know it at the time, but my observer had videoed me cutting this limb and sent it back in to Bass. Well, they had been running it, on the whatever, the live or whatever. Well, they were concerned that some tree hugger up there in Jersey was going to freak out because I was cutting.
Wait, you didn't get
live
DQ'd,
trees.
did you?
Huh?
You didn't get DQ'd.
No.
Oh.
No, they thought I was cutting live trees to get back in this place, and I'm like, oh my God, no! They were dead as a doorknob, and they were falling over in the river. What the heck? So I was like, good God.
Cut me some slack. I'm just trying to piss on Mike Iaconelli's parade here.
That's all I want to do is piss on Ike's parade, man. Give me a break. Damn it.
Okay. Kevin, man.
Oh, wow.
Great stuff. I want to bring something up, and you tell me if this is true, but I'm starting to see a common denominator in some of the other tournaments that I know about that are in this dog day period that we haven't really talked about. You took me way back to Columbus, Mississippi, educated us on that one that I had never even really heard about how that went down. So that was an awesome take. But cranking, man. Cranking. And it's, I heard plastic and balsa. So I don't know if there's, if it's a both and thing, but why is it so effective throughout this period? Why is this crankbait thing so effective?
Probably because a crankbait's one of the best tools that we have at getting a reaction bite. That's what it all comes back to. There's so many different crankbaits out there, so many different sizes, so many depths. You can target almost any depth that you need to with a crankbait, from 0 foot down to 20 foot, and they elicit reaction bites when nothing else will. And a lot of times when, like we talked about earlier, in the hot summertime, there may only be really small windows when those fish are actively feeding.
So true.
And the other times, they're just there. They're just sitting there. They're not expending energy. They're not chasing anything. They're trying to hide in the shade. They're trying to hide up under a dock. They're trying to get up against something, get out of the sun, just like we would be. And here comes this little bluegill and crashes into their little boat dock, or crashes into their stump or lay down or whatever, and they literally just react to it. They're not necessarily feeding, they're not necessarily chasing anything, but it's just something that gets right in their face and they want to make it go away. Riz is doing the same thing with the gnats or fruit flies or whatever. I mean, he's reacted to, he's swatting them away.
Yeah.
That's a micron crankbait.
Don't have hands, man. If they're going to get rid of something, they got to grab it with their mouth.
Very true.
And spit it out.
Yep.
So, a lot of times, when you catch a fish on a crankbait and it's buried in their, in the back of their throat, they're either super aggressive or they stuck that thing in and they were about to blow it back out to get it away from them, to get it out of their face. I think that's probably the number one reason that crankbaits of whatever kind, whether it's whether it has a bill or whether it's a lipless, they get those reaction strikes, just pure reaction strikes that, I'm sorry, but a Cinco just won't get that bite, baby.
So
here we go.
Sorry, Pete. I got a follow-up question for you. Somewhat based on what Justin just mentioned. So plastic versus balsa. And then I want to go through the water column and just probe you for a minute and your brain and get to your top picks in the 0 foot to 1 foot range, super shallow, all the way down. If you could only have one crankbait in each of those categories, what are you bringing to the game? So wood versus plastic. Is there something special about wood? And would you always pick wood over plastic? Let's talk about that. Okay.
I would not always pick wood over plastic. It totally depends on the situation.
Sure.
I've never found a wooden wake bait. A bait that runs 0 to 2 foot. I've never found a wooden one that I thought was as good as the plastic ones that are out there.
Sure.
Whether it's a baby 1 minus.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. Or a 6 cents. Casey makes a little 80X wake bait. It's awesome. It's a bigger wake bait.
The movement 80.
Awesome. Down to down to 2-3 foot deep for that one. From 3 foot down to 5 or 6. I'm going to have a mixture of wood and plastic, depending on what I'm trying to do and also what I'm fishing it around. The overwhelming majority of the time when I'm fishing wood, any kind of a wooden bait, I'm fishing it around wood. I'm usually bouncing it off the wood, running it up against the wood. Plastic, I've found very few plastic baits that have the same buoyancy as a wooden bait does, particularly if it's a balsa bait. The plastic I don't care how you weight them, how meticulous they are, they just don't seem to have the buoyancy. They seem to get hung up more than a really good wooden bait. I use a lot of the Lucky Craft 1.5s, and I have since they came out. Typically, I'll use those either around grass or around rock. It's not worth a crap at fishing around wood because it wants to marry every piece of wood that it ever gets next to.
True.
That's typically where I'm going to throw, either a WC E1 or an E2. There you go. In that 3 to 5 foot range. That's my number one bait in wood and plastic. Deeper than that, there's so freaking many crankbaits out there that it's really hard to. It's really hard to say. But after, there's so many. After you get, down to 7, 10, 15 foot deep, it's almost all become plastic. Because there's so many good plastic baits out there. 20 years ago, the best deeper diving crankbaits that we had were a Pose 300 or a Pose 400. And you can't even find one of those anymore. That's worth a crap. Because guys just don't throw them. They don't throw them because the 5XD, the 6XD, the DT10, DT16. Man, all of those baits are so much easier to deal with. You don't have to worry about the bills coming out of them. You don't have to worry about the bodies, breaking. They're available in a bazillion different colors. That's totally changed. When I first started throwing a deeper diving crankbait, that's what we threw was either a Pose 300 or a Pose 400. That's all that there was until the fat-free shad came along. We didn't have anything that was really a deeper diving crankbait that was plastic. That was a really, really good crankbait. The DD22 was, it was probably the first one that I used a lot, caught a lot of fish on it, but man, it was so hard to throw because it was all of the weight was all the weight was up here in the front. And it was such a big bait and had such a big bill on it that it would catch wind like crazy. But when that fat-free shad came out, especially that bigger one, you could throw it a mile. It tracked really well, dove really well, and caught a lot of fish. And like I say now with the, it still does, yeah. And like I say now with the the stuff that Strike King's done. The 6XD, even the 8XD and the 10XD, you can cover all kinds of water with that. But I'm mix it up a little bit. I will sometimes in the winters, if I'm throwing crankbaits, I will throw flat-sided, smaller wooden baits, not necessarily around rock, because rock's so hard on them. But if I'm just fishing down the bank, or fishing grass, something like that, I will throw wood. But typically, it's wood on wood, plastic on everything else.
Yeah, man.
Typically.
In the Zoom lineup, go ahead.
And I'll say this: I mean, finding a really good, consistent wooden bait has gotten a whole lot harder to do.
Very true.
After Ed Chambers passed away. There's a lot of guys out there that build really good baits. I've bought, quite a few of them from different builders. And they build some really good baits, but getting 12 of them that 11 of them are the same is damn near impossible. I mean, it is so hard to be consistent, either in the way that all the baits swim, or it's really hard to be consistent in the painting. I mean, I know some guys that are really good at painting baits, but even they have a hard time painting 25, 30, 50 baits all exactly the same. And Ed was one of those guys that had the patience and had the he just had the mental fortitude that, almost every single one of his baits was exactly the same. I mean, I could get 12 baits and I could know that at least 11 of them were going to run the same, track the same, run the same depth, and weigh within a gram or two of exactly the same, every single one of them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's somebody else out there that's that meticulous. But
there's one. There's
I've
one
not
or
found
two.
them yet.
No.
Okay. Well,
Marty Burns, Big M.
Yeah.
Do you know him? He's awesome.
I've seen his stuff. Yep.
And there's some really super consistent painters out there. I got a mad respect for TK Stanley at Tacklecraft. He's a master painter, in my opinion, and can pump them out. But I hear you, man. I mean, from a Zoom consistency perspective, and I think the wood, the balsa, the premium balsa is harder to get. They're making, I never knew this, the wind farms, the blades are made out of balsa. So
yes, the supports, the structural supports, those are all cut out of balsa. That completely, that devastated the balsa bait business when those guys started using, because they got all of the big #1 grade balsa.
Yeah. Now, can we get a destroyed blade and have somebody make like 1,000 crankbaits out of one of those?
Oh my God,
that would be awesome! Like,
I'm sure
they retire those blades, man. Let's reclaim them and make some balsa baits, man.
You bet.
The premium balsa.
Get a lifetime supply out of one blade.
Cut these, man.
Yeah, but that was one of Ed's big deals, is when he would get, a load of balsa, the first thing that he would do is he would weigh every single stick.
Yep. Wow.
And he would write how much that stick weighed on the end of it, and then he would sort them so that whatever he was building, whether it was a flat bait, that needed to weigh less, whether it was a round bait that could stand to weigh a little bit more, he knew exactly how dense each stick of balsa was by how much it weighed. Now he would grade and sort every single stick, and he would get thousands of sticks at a time. He wouldn't get just a box of 64. He would get thousands of them at a time and go through and grade them so that he would know exactly what each one of them weighed. And that's the first step in being so consistent with all of his baits.
Right on, man. For the people that want to venture out and maybe get a Zoom bait, I know that your website with your wife, you guys were selling Zooms for a reasonable price. I mean, you just did a flat price. I know, man. So
Those
that
days are
$45.
long gone,
Are there
baby.
none left? Like not even
Nope.
sand fleas or anything? It's all gone.
There's still a few sand fleas.
There are. I checked the other day, man. People
yeah,
can go out now.
There's
I mean,
still a few.
did you?
But I
you
mean,
didn't
when
carry the
they're
full-
gone, they're gone.
I know.
Yeah, there's not anymore. And
I
I
know.
mean, I get on eBay and check
It's
every
great.
once in a while, and it's just, oh my God, it's ridiculous.
It's
it
nuts,
it just blows my mind. And it would, I mean, it always used to make Ed laugh when he'd see, a ridiculous price that somebody paid for one of his baits. He just got a kick out of it.
He thought that was awesome.
That was just he thought that was the craziest thing, because this was a man that he wasn't going to spend all the money that he had made. His
Right.
grandkids can't spend all the money that he's made.
Oh, sure.
So,
sure.
I mean, money was just, he didn't care about money.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a gentleman walk in one time that wanted to buy Zoom and was dead serious on buying Zoom, and offered him what I thought was an astronomical amount of money to buy it. And Ed said, I don't need the money. He said, if you buy this, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I got to have something to do. I got to have something to come into and do every day.
Right on.
And the man said, well, you could come in and work for me. And Ed just, I ain't working for anybody else, man. I've been doing this way too long.
Yeah, I'm
It
struggling
wasn't-
right now to identify with where Ed's head was at, because
it was not. Hey,
I want
building those crankbaits.
Brian, you're
not
pretty
about the money.
damn good at building cabinets. I mean,
just saying that whole thing. Oh, I don't need the money. Like, what's that like? I just want to live in that. I just want to experience that, like that thought for a second, or huh.
Can I keep geeking out a little bit on crankbaits just for like two more questions? I want to just ask Kevin about a Zoom bait. It was from a finesse flat side perspective. Was the Zoom mutt? This is the Zoom mutt in a foil.
Yep.
Was that your number one if you had to go? Small shad pattern in the fall. Would that be your number one pick?
Yes, that would be. Yes.
And
Most
what about
definitely.
in plastic? Somebody just asked on, and this is not a winter question, but finesse plastic. Are you a normie crappy crank guy back in the day when you needed a bite if you just wanted to crank and catch them and they were at the depth? And was that something that was in your arsenal?
Probably Cordell used to make a Big O.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody knows about the Big O. Well, they made a small one, and I don't
Big O.
have one, but it's like 2 inches long. I mean, they made like a teeny.
Yeah.
That looks like it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
They made that bait in a color called Harbor O.
What?
And it was Super Shad. They made it Super Shad.
Oh man, Super Shad.
Come on,
Super
Eric, quicker.
Shad. It's got like blue
Quickery.
sides, kind of a little purple silver back.
I know
Dude,
it.
that is like, I mean, if you need, if you're around smaller bait, that's still my number one go-to small plastic crankbait.
Still catches them.
I mean, you can grind. It still catches them, man. You can grind it off, and it's one of the few small plastic baits that you can actually run over and around and through brush piles and lay downs and stumps and stuff like that, and it won't get hung up as bad. Okay, it will get hung up, but it won't get hung up as bad. But it is an awesome small profile. It's easy to throw, even though it's a small plastic bait. It's easy to throw. That is my number one go-to small plastic.
Super Shad is kind of like that color, guys. So if you're looking for that,
it's similar to that.
Similar. I'm just showing them.
Do you have one, Eric?
I have a Super Shad at home, but I don't have it with. I was just trying to show a custom.
Oh, you just got your backup crankbait collection, Eric.
You didn't tell me this was going to be show and tell.
Dude, you're like
if
you're playing Madden and you like create a quarterback and you make everything 99. You're that in crankbait collectors. You're like the creative player of the crankbaits.
Appreciate that, man. Let's see if it does me any good in the championship season.
Yeah.
I have one more question I have to ask.
All right, go ahead.
I'm Brian. I'm sorry. You knew I was gonna geek out, man.
Before you do that,
okay.
Before you do that,
just over there shaking his head.
Yeah, I just want to throw out a little piece of BTC trivia for everybody out there that cares. And I know there's a lot of you. No, I actually caught my very first crankbait fish on a Big O way back.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it was a straight up chrome Big O, and I remember
sails.
Yeah, I just remember all the flash, and we called it the flashlight lure because we didn't know nothing, you know.
The big one or the little one he was talking about?
No, it was the bigger size.
The
bigger one. I'm sure,
Big O.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. All right, Kevin, maybe you can help us settle the debate about is the old 1.5 different than the new 1.5. I'll give you the premise of what I've heard. I can't confirm. I've never cut one in half. The older RC, the OG, had a tungsten ball versus now a lead ball. And that there's something, if you weigh these baits, they do weigh the same, but they don't feel the same to a lot of crankbait nuts that are, 1.5 fanatics. Less paint, I don't know, but they weigh the same. Walls thinner, different plastic. The butyrate that they used to use, I believe there's a difference in the sound and maybe resonance. But what are your thoughts? Just tell me.
I have not. Well, that's not true. I have bought a few of the newer ones.
Mm-hmm.
When Tackle Warehouse was getting rid of the original ones.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh my God. I put the hurt on their ass.
Bass Pro Shops did it too, man. I was pulling racks when they closed them out at Bass Pro. Literally it didn't care about the color of 1.5, 2.5, rattle in, deep rattle sound, didn't matter. Just like this. It was like $3.99. Give them to me, all of them.
Get them all. I want them all.
They're getting repainted now, man.
I have, in fact, just this year, I bought some of the newer ones because I wanted some. They got a little bluegill color that I saw that Ayler, I think, came up with. It's a little gill pattern, and I actually caught a lot of fish on it earlier in the year. I don't think they're the same either, but I don't think it's a plastic thing. I think it has something to do with the internal weight. And I'm like you. I mean, I've not cut two of them open. A new one and an old one. I've not cut them open to find out. But I feel the same way. There's something that's not there. There's a reason that they used to be $16, and now they're $8.
Sure.
And it's not because the family that owns Lucky Craft is feeling generous. That's not the reason. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's possible, and I've not looked at the packaging to see. Possible that now maybe they're making them in China, where they were making them in Japan.
That's right.
Painting them in Japan, and now they're doing it all in China. But I don't think that the baits have the current ones. I don't think the current ones have as crisp of an action.
I agree.
As the older ones do.
I agree.
But I can't tell you why.
Yeah.
Other than I'm not worried about it because I've got a buttload of the old ones.
That's right. I feel the same about the -1, the old double scan.
Oh yeah,
OG -1.
No.
It is not the same bait.
No,
I don't care what you say. They don't feel the same. They don't count. They don't wobble. No way. No way, man. So interesting. Thank you. And that's my last question of the 1.5 era.
Great.
I was going to say that ain't your last question.
I know it's not.
That's the goodness I love getting to. But let's give away some more stuff, Rich. What do you got, man?
Right on.
Hey, no, people. Go ahead, Rich. Do it in your voice.
my new voice on the Bass University message board. The next question I'm going to go with is from Team No Fish, and Team No Fish wants to know, in the dog days of summer, if you're on a body of water where you have the option to fish docks or laydown structure, like laydown wood structure, what's going to be your better option to get a bite in those dog days of summer, docks or laydowns?
If they're both in the same depth of water, I'm going to go with boat docks because they offer more shade. And depending, well, let me back up. It depends on if they're floating docks or if they're like wooden docks with posts. If they're floating docks, I'm going for laydowns. Okay, because the floating docks, I don't know that the floating docks have as much cover other than the shade as a laydown will. I'm not sure it's going to attract as much in the way of bait fish. Now, if it's post docks with posts, that go all the way down to the bottom and everything, I'm going to go with the post docks because obviously they've got horizontal cover. They've also got vertical cover, being the post, and you got a lot more options with that type of dock. Hello.
Yeah.
Sounds
that's
good.
great.
You good with that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a great answer. So I want to give away a tip and then ask a question. From my young days of obsessing over bass fishing, I learned a lot of finesse techniques. We haven't really gone that way with this show, which I kind of thought we would. It's like when I jumped into a federation club when I was 16, you learned about the Carolina rig and the shaky head and all these ways to catch them. But man, I remember getting on something, and I fished a lot of ponds coming up, just fish where I could fish. And I was going to tell the bank guys, in June, July, August, September, it's like the hottest days, the toughest days in the middle of the day. I could take a baby 1- and throw it over 4 to 5 feet of water and burn the ever-living junk out of that crankbait and catch the biggest fish in the pond. I started doing it more in other lakes. I'll never forget one of my first tournaments as a junior club tournament. I just wanted to do it, and we got on some shallow flat, and I think I caught him on a Big O and a baby 1-, and I lost a bunch of big fish because my mechanics were so green. But it's something that honestly did not stick with me. I don't have a large collection of balsa. Over the last couple of years, we've started cranking a lot more. Me and my team partner, I'm starting to weigh fish in on crankbaits like I never used to. So tell me this whole deal about burning a crankbait through the dog days. And I'm talking about not even necessarily always making contact. Is that targeting these fish that even suspend almost in shallower water, 6, 7, 8 feet or less? Is that a thing, Kevin? Like, have I just been missing out?
Pretty much, yeah. You just, just wandering around out there clueless, I guess, man. I don't know. What do you think? You're talking about basically a buzz bait under the water. That's all that you're doing with that 1-.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same type thing. I think I feel like, and it varies depending on where you're at, but I would be willing to bet that in the majority of lakes across the South, now obviously this isn't going to apply to the northern lakes that freeze up, but in the majority of lakes across the South that don't freeze up, there's a lot of shallow fish that are shallow 12 months out of the year.
Oh yeah.
People just don't think about. They don't fish for them. They don't, if it's a lake that the water is real clear, they think, oh, well, the water's real clear, they're going to be real deep. I mean, I moved to a lake that's got real clear water in it 11 months out of the year. And I am absolutely floored by how many fish that we catch even like in the dead of winter, water temperatures in the 40s, bright blue sun, no wind, and we catch them in less than 5 feet of water.
Yeah.
And I promise you, you can see the bottom. There is no problem. You can see the bottom a long way in front of the boat.
Our Upper Bay fish are in 3 foot in the winter.
Oh yeah,
for sure, Justin.
It's just
and
there's a lot of them that stay up there a lot more than just in the wintertime too.
Crazy.
And I've seen that in other lakes too. I mean, that's not. I don't think that's specific to this lake. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of fish super shallow all year round, regardless of what the water temperature is, regardless of what the water clarity is. I mean, the fish that we caught, this past weekend on the river were in less than 2 foot of water.
Awesome.
We couldn't see them. There wasn't any way that we could see them, but I mean, they weren't deep. I mean, I'm sure there's guys that caught them deep, but they didn't win. We did. And we caught them in 2 feet of water.
That's awesome.
Did you have current and flow?
No, God, no. Absolutely
nothing.
No current.
That's so crazy. No
dead.
trickle. No
Absolutely
nothing.
Dead. Nothing.
Unbelievable.
No, nothing.
That's awesome.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, think about this. I mean, I don't know how much experience you guys have flipping like matted vegetation.
Yeah.
I mean,
Potomac River and Upper Bay.
Exactly. There you go. Same thing. There's a lot of times, even if that mat is in 6 or 7 foot of water, there's a lot of times when those fish are not on the bottom.
Oh,
they're literally right under that mat.
Oh,
I mean, right under it.
Eating that crawdaddy.
Whatever, because you punch your little weight down through there, and you let it go to the bottom, but when you pull it back up and bounce it underneath that mat, all of a sudden, he pulls you back down. Or the better ones are when the whole mat goes, whoop. Oh my God. I need to jerk. My cork just went under.
Guys, exactly what Kevin is talking about right now is a recent release on Bass U TV when we just had Caleb Summerall out there, and the seminar was punching hydrilla, and exactly what Kevin just spoke about. We actually had bites with Caleb, where some on the bottom, some back up towards the top of the mat. So it just nails it home.
That's awesome, man. Bass U, man. Come on, sign up.
No reason.
That's great.
Forget about it.
I got to ask one follow-up question.
Sign up tonight, and Kevin Short will sign a crankbait and send it to you.
And it's a WEC Zoom E1.
Yeah, right.
Maybe.
Let me get in that line.
Maybe.
So, Kevin, I got to ask you.
Maybe not.
We talked a lot about that crankbait in the dog days being a tool, but contact with the cover being the biggest thing. And I know that is the deal. Is there a scenario where you're just winding out in the open, kind of like what I was talking about, where it doesn't matter, like the fish are relating to either bait or suspended because they're in a bad mood, or do those fish just not eat? For as far as a crankbait goes.
No, I have caught fish that were relating more to pods of shad. I have caught them that were not necessarily up against something, or under a dock, up against a lay down, up against a log. Most of the time, though, when I have caught them on a crankbait, it's been more of a wake bait or a really shallow diving crankbait, because those fish a lot of times are looking up. Because they're. I mean, if you've ever seen fish that are chasing bait, they always come at them, not always, but the majority of the time they come at them from underneath.
Right.
And they're always under the shad coming up because they're always looking up because guess what? The eyes are in the top of their head. Okay. There's not any bass out there that have eyes in the bottom of their head.
Yeah.
They're always looking up. Okay. So in that situation, Eric's baby 1-, we had Norman had this little, it was actually a knockoff of a Rebel, holy cow, I can't remember.
The Rebel Humpy?
Yes. Norman had one of those that we used a lot that was an awesome shallow, and it was a little bit. I mean, it
Super
wasn't even.
Scooper? No, was it a Super
No,
Scooper?
not Super Scooper.
I'm going to think of it now.
Called.
I know the bait. Anyway, keep going. It's like the Rebel Humpy.
Yes. I mean, it wouldn't, I mean, you couldn't make the thing run over a foot deep, but you could blaze it back super fast. And I mean, it was like a fleeing shad is all it was. You know, the baby 1-, you can fish it slow. It's got that big wide wobble and the rattles and everything. This thing did nothing but just get it, trying to get away from something. It had a really tight wiggle. And you could catch the snot out of fish that were chasing, particularly if they were chasing smaller shad, smaller bluegill or whatever. I mean, they would come for this thing and just choke it. But there again, I mean, you're not hitting anything with it, but it's completely a sight, and it typically worked the best in clear water where they could see the bait. It was a visual thing, and I will say that's probably the majority of times that I've caught fish on a crankbait of any kind that has not involved, bouncing the bait off of something. The majority of times that I've caught those fish, it has been in a clear water scenario where it was more visually oriented for the fish as opposed to, sound or a deflection thing when the bait was bouncing, crashing off and stuff.
Are you manipulating your retrieve when you're doing that at all, Kevin? Specifically talking about, the clear water, more open water situation where you're getting bites. Like, are you like jerking your rod down, back and forth, side up, down to make that crankbait get crazy in the water column to trigger those strikes, or is it just a straight burn type of retrieve?
I don't ever throw hardly anything out there that I'm not doing something with. Either pulling the rod a little bit, giving it some slack, stopping the reel, winding it faster. That I had the hardest time learning to fish a swim bait,
right?
Because I mean, and I'll never forget.
Yeah, because you can't do nothing with it.
It's like a Senko.
You can't do shit with it. The first time that I ever fished a swim bait, I was in one of the Texas Toyota Bass Classics when it was a team thing.
Yeah.
And Jeff Crete and I were paired up.
The squirrel.
Crete was the squirrel was catching them on a Optima line through big swim bait.
Yeah.
And I had never thrown a swim bait. I couldn't even spell swim bait. Okay. I had no clue. So Crete fixed me up, gave me a couple of swim baits, got in the boat with him. And first thing I do is I throw it out there and I'm winding it, stopping it. I'm pulling the rod, and winding it. And Crete's like, stop, just stop. I'm like, what? He's like, throw the thing out there, count to 5, and just wind the damn thing back. Don't wiggle
it's like
it.
A Senko, son.
Don't pull it. Don't just wind it straight back to you. And I had the hardest. I mean, I'm like,
you're like, this thing's broken.
Just let me.
Oh my God! Until I got that first bite.
Ooh.
When I got that first bite, it was like, oh my God, I got it now. Yeah. I got it now. That was the hardest thing for me to learn how to do because I had thrown a crankbait a spinner bait, a bug, something, some kind of moving reaction bait so long and for so much, and I have always done something with it, whether it's, stop and reeling and pulling the bait along, with my rod tip, or winding it a little bit faster, stopping it right before it hits the log, kind of bouncing it over, always doing something with the rod and the reel to vary that retrieve.
Kevin, can you talk a little
in
bit
answer to
about
your
that
question,
pulling?
yes.
You've said now a few times, and
Yes.
it's springing my ears up. You're pulling the bait rather than winding the bait. Now, I mean, people might think like if you're pulling the bait, you're still moving it forward. If you're winding the bait, you're still moving it forward. But clearly, there's something different about it if you're making it a point to do one over the other. What's the deal with that?
The next time you go out, if you tie on a crankbait that's deep enough that you know it's going to hit the bottom, if you throw it out there, wind it down until it hits the bottom, if you will stop winding and pull that bait along the bottom with your rod, and pay attention to how much you can feel just by pulling it with the rod, and then take off winding it again and pay attention to how much feel you have while you're trying to wind. I can promise you, you can feel more when you're pulling it and not winding than when you're just straight winding. Okay, it's a sensitivity thing. And what I've always done is when I could feel the bait coming up to a log, a lay down, the post on the dock, or a big rock or whatever, when I could feel that bait was coming up to it, I would stop reeling and actually pull the bait over it with the rod tip. And what that does is it actually allows you get a better feel for what the bait's doing. And I think number one, you don't get hung up as easy. Number two, you're able to detect a really subtle bite. Okay, when you're pulling that bait along versus when you're winding.
Yeah,
we had a time where we were pulling the baits. I call it worming a crankbait.
Yep.
We were at a place on the Potomac River. It was post spawn. We were throwing a Norman baby end, deep little end, and we were worming it through laydowns off the bank, and literally it was when you were pulling it, you could feel the bait vibrating. The fish were coming up behind it and pushing it forward. So the bait stopped vibrating, and you only had to lean into the fish. The guys winding were constantly hung up because that is a snaggy bait.
Exactly.
Very much catch the hell out of him in the post.
Oh yeah,
for us. Yeah, man. Still a viable bait. But that was a great lesson in worming a crankbait, because you're worming, you're pulling, you're not reeling your worm in, you're pulling your worm to feel.
That's a very good way to put it. Yes, very good way to put it. Yes.
So guys, all you guys watching at home, that on Bass U TV, we did film an on water. Now we've got a square crankbait in the classroom seminar with Kevin Short, but the fishing the square bill crankbaits on the water we filmed with there. So you might get a little tip on a lot of this stuff where Kevin's showing how he works a crankbait. I'm pretty sure, judging by the picture, I'm pretty sure it was close to summer. In fact, I'm almost positive we filmed that in like July.
Oh, it was summer.
Yeah,
it was after one of the Ike Foundation tournaments. Yeah, it was August, I think.
Pretty incredible video. Seen it myself, I must say. Worth the price of admission for a full year. I'll say no more.
So I should have anticipated this, that this would have turned into more of a crankbait show with our guest co-host and our guest Kevin Short.
but wait, man. Wait. I had a Ned rig hooked up. I had a wacky rig hooked up. I had a freaking Nico. I had a shaky head. I had a Texas rig. I had a weighted wacky. I had a split shot rig, and I didn't get to talk about him. I'm kind of pissed.
Well, I know we're pushing already. I cannot believe it. We've just been going forever. But Kevin, cranking obviously is going to be number one. So we're going to throw it out real quick. Give me 4 other things to round out your top 5 techniques for the dog day.
Good question.
Okay, number 2, if it's available it's going to have to be punching. I mean, if you've got any kind of matted vegetation, just like we were talking about earlier, man, that's a perfect, perfect shade. Bluegill, crayfish, everybody's going to be underneath that.
How much water has to be under the mat?
Enough to float a damn fish. That's it.
Not much.
So,
dude, I have been amazed at how shallow I have caught fish underneath mats. I mean, stuff that I could barely get the boat up to.
Like less than a foot type stuff?
Less than a foot, yes.
Still getting through with the big weight, 1 ounce.
They still get it. Yeah, it's nuts. The prime stuff, I mean, for us, the prime stuff is going to be stuff that's underneath, that has a creek channel underneath it, where it's got deeper water.
Right.
Especially if it's in a bend, man, that's where everybody's going to bunch up. Obviously, that's the prime stuff. But yeah, the back of a pocket, back of a creek. I mean, you've got to fish it all to figure out where they're at. I'm going to look for that. Flipping, just flipping the wood, flipping laydowns, flipping boat docks. That's going to be right up there. I mean, think about all those classics that guys like Denny Brower, Dion Hibden won in late July, early August, flipping a tube, flipping a jig, whatever, around shallow cover. I mean, hello, that ain't real hard to figure out, you know?
Visible.
I don't have any problem throwing a rubber worm, throwing a 7, 10.5 inch old monster, something like that, or, around brush piles.
Bigger bite.
That's still a viable, that's still a viable technique in a lot of places. Last thing on the list is going to be a Cinco, of course, but now we don't even fish Cincos down here. I'm not, in certain scenarios, certain places, I'm not opposed to throwing a buzz bait if the fish are a little bit more active. If there's a lot of bait in an area, as long as the fish will react to it. And really, what it comes down to is what the fish are going to react to and what you get bit on. I mean, I don't really care what I catch them on, how I catch them, particularly in a tournament situation. I'm going to use whatever I've got in the boat that I think they're going to bite to try and win. That's
and
right
on.
And last, kind of what we're out there for,
Right, and if you have to, you throw Senko, Because let's be honest.
And if I have to, I throw a damn
chicks
Senko.
dig the long ball, and Senko's like a team that's just bunts. It's just a bunt, bunt. You know what I mean? You got a slow pitcher, third baseman's asleep with a bad ankle, and they just bunt all night long.
That's a good way to put it.
Shots, man. Pete is not even here to defend himself.
I'm just saying,
That's just Pete.
Chicks don't dig the Senko.
Wow.
Kevin, I'm glad you included the top water there in the last, because I think about. I love fishing this time of year. I love it when the weights go down. And I love to try and find top water bites when I can get them, Yeah. So tell me why or the scenarios where I'm going to go wrong with sticking the top water in my hand for 5 bites. Why you're going to kick my tail on the dog days with a crankbait when I'm sticking with my top water. Tell me why.
Depending on what kind of topwater it is, over the course of the day, I'm going to be able to put crankbait in front of more fish than you are with topwater. That's the only exception to that would be a buzzbait or something like a whopper plopper. Okay, because you can cover a lot of water with those. But if you're talking, you're talking like a popper, a popper bait or a walking bait, you simply cannot cover enough water. Now, if you know exactly, if the fish are positioned, like on a point, or if it's a river system and there's rock jetties and they're sitting right out on the ends of the jetties, then a situation like that where you can sit and throw at the same place over a school of fish, that might be a scenario where you might come out on top. But I would be willing to bet that, for every one fish that you catch on top, I can take a crankbait and run around the end of that jetty and catch 3 or 4 more on a crankbait. May not be as big. That's the one thing about a topwater bait. A lot of times is it can and will catch bigger fish. In a lot of cases.
But the biggest lesson I hear there for the dog days that we're talking about is covering water and
have to cover water, man.
As many fish as you can get around.
Have to cover water. There's no, and it's not like, in the spring when they're all up on the bank, either, going to make babies, making babies, or coming from making babies, and they're all spread up and down the bank. It ain't like that in July and August.
Right.
A lot of times they'll be bunched up in little bitty areas, and if you don't figure out or find that little bitty area, then you don't catch squat. It's just, it's one here, one there. So it's a little bit different than when they're, scattered all up and down the bank, and literally all you do is go down the bank, picking them one off here, one there, one there, one there, one on this side of the pocket, one on that side of the pocket. And that, when I first started tournament fishing, that was something that when in the springtime, when the fish were scattered like that, just literally you had to cover water. I had a really hard time doing that because I wouldn't cover enough water.
Interesting.
And I wanted to really, slow down and pick something apart and try and find, those little groups of fish or little areas that were holding fish. When, they'd be down a 5-mile section of bank scattered down through there. And you literally had to, put the trolling motor on high and go. So that was something, that I had to learn. And it's, I still am going to look for an area. And if I'm able to stay in that area and pick it apart, that's one of the things that I have done extremely well over the years. And it's, the reason I've got some hardware sitting over there is because, I've been able to find an area or a couple of areas and really exploit those areas. Now, while I'm in those areas, I'm making a hell of a lot of casts and covering a lot of water. I'm just not doing it on a long distance. I'm confining it to a small area.
So you're talking like a creek or like a stretch within a creek, and you just stay there and are you making laps, or are you covering as much new water in that area as you can during the day?
Depends on the situation. Depends a lot on how the bait is positioned in that creek. When I won my first Elite Series on the Mississippi River, I probably covered less than half a mile in 4 days. And the majority of that was spent in one stretch of a slough that was maybe 100 yards long. I don't even know if it was 100 yards, maybe 75 yards.
Wow.
But I literally went back and forth and back and forth for 4 freaking days.
Unbelievable.
The first 2 days, I had, of all people, Jeff Creed in there with me on one side. And I had a couple of other little places that I'd pick up one fish, maybe one fish out of this little place. And, the next day I caught one fish out of this little place. But the majority of those 20 fish that I weighed in that week came out of one 75-yard stretch of a 4-foot deep slough. And it was the only place that I'd gotten a bite in practice.
Wow.
Brutal.
That's how tough it was. It was brutal.
That's crazy.
That just the way that it was position. There was bait in there. The fish had just finished spawning. It was a perfect place for them to come in and spawn, kind of get out of the current, out of the, off the main river. It just, it had everything that 20 bass could want. And Creek caught, he caught 3 or 4 out of there each of the first 2 days. So there was more than 20 in there.
Yeah.
And there was other guys that would come in and catch one and then, whatever, go out. But I can promise you, after 4 days, I don't know that there was any left in there.
I know. And
I just don't think there was.
I can remember one of your biggest changes, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm thinking of a different term about it. I feel like one of your biggest changes in that event was not a bait. It wasn't anything but changing from fluorocarbon to mono.
Yes.
Mid-tournament.
Yeah,
Why?
Because the water was dropping. The water level was dropping. They were slowing the flow. Slowing the flow down in the river. And the water in those backwater areas was dropping a little bit every day. And the third day, I was throwing fluorocarbon, and I kept hitting the bottom of the little slough with my crankbait and picking up leaves. And I was actually having to hold my rod almost straight up to keep the bait from digging in the bottom. And when I got back,
wizard stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What was that crankbait you had to hold the rod high to get through the 3 foot? Talk to us,
dude. What is it with you and crankbait? Come on. The third, when I got back to the camper, I tied on. I got one reel, and I got some. I think I got some 17-pound mono, and I got another reel, and I put 20-pound mono on it. Because I wanted to keep. Oh yeah, I'm catching like 2-pounders, but I wanted that heavy of a line to keep the bait up. I mean, that was my whole goal, was to keep it up in the water column so it wouldn't hit the bottom and pick up those decaying leaves and ruin the cast. And it made all the difference in the world that last day, because I did not have to worry about the bait digging in the bottom and picking up any of those leaves. So that's just one little bitty, thing like that can make just a huge. That's one of the things I get asked all these questions all the time, and people want like a specific answer, and there's so many variables out there.
So true.
There's no one absolute answer to any question that you give about fishing, because it's just, and it all goes back to, you have to be a learner. You can't be a knower. You have to be a learner.
So you have to subscribe to Bass U. That's just it, everybody.
Never stop learning,
go
baby.
right now.
There you go.
Seriously. Bravo, man.
Not hard.
You got to be a learner.
Bravo, man.
Got to be
Bravo.
a learner.
Yeah.
Bravo.
There's a lot of knowers out there.
That's good stuff, man.
BTC, we got anything else for Kevin, or we want to let him go?
Oh no, we got all. Dude, YouTube's been dying over here. I've been trying to get questions in for hours.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
No, it's
Kevin,
all right.
DM me. I'm sending you this. You are officially my Dr. Krankenstein of the night. DM me your address. I'm sending it, man, with some other little funny stuff, man. But
awesome.
you're my Dr. Krankenstein, bro. What can I say?
Thank you.
So this question came through a lot for the last couple hours. What shampoo are you using, Kev? People have been fascinated by your hair.
The one in the gray bottle. I don't know what it is. It's
The
something
Flow.
for men. I don't know.
Just for men?
I don't know.
Oh.
You want me to go get it? What the hell?
Nah, you didn't even bring
no one
crankbaits to the
answer,
show.
man.
He ain't going for shampoo.
It just ain't, there's no one answer to hair like that, bro.
I don't know what it is. It's in a gray bottle. That's all I know.
A lot of people think you look like KVD with long hair. Do you get that? Get that a lot?
I've been called a lot of things, but that's not one of them. No.
No. All right.
Nope.
First time tonight. Potbelly goblins.
Not one of them.
Anybody got an opinion on potbelly goblins?
No.
I don't know that.
I'm going to look that up because I don't know what that's about either.
I don't know. I don't have any idea.
Questions? These are YouTube questions?
Oh, yeah, they were having their own conversation. They got tired of asking questions that weren't getting answered.
Okay.
Somebody wondered if Jesus' homies could even catch them good because he always had to multiply the fish, which I thought that was a fantastic point. Apparently, he didn't hang with fishermen.
Oh my gosh!
Hold on,
I thought he was a fisherman.
Well, his homies weren't. He had to multiply the catch.
Oh yeah.
All right. Oh, yeah. Give me a second. I got to go back and find a fishing question. Rich, stall for me.
Somebody asked what his top. Somebody asked what his top 3 colors for WEC were. If that's a valid question, I could just ask that. Composite, graphite, or glass for cranking. That was out there too. If you want to feel
don't
either
show
of those.
off. E, just ask one question. You got to rub it in.
I'm sorry. I was trying to help out.
I see you. You're wearing your glasses. You can see. I can't. One question would have been fine to make me look stupid here.
You are fired.
Go ahead, Kevin. Glass and crankbaits.
All right. I've always been either a composite or a pure fiberglass. I really like probably composite is the best. I've used for years. I used St. Croix. They used to build some E-glass rods. I think they've switched to S-glass, which is a different type of material that they use. They're great rods. The last couple of years, I've actually been using Shimano X Prides. They are they're a composite graphite and fiberglass, and I really like those. They're actually a little bit lighter than a true fiberglass rod. That's one of the downfalls of an all fiberglass rod is they tend to be just a little bit heavier. But I've really liked those X Pride composite rods. I mean, I've had really good luck with both the medium and the medium heavy. I probably throw the medium heavy more than I do the medium. The medium, I'll throw smaller baits on, like the little mutt, like the little small Big O, that size bait. The 7.2 medium heavy in that X Pride composite. I mean, I can throw a bigger crankbait. I'll throw a spinnerbait on it. I'll throw a jackhammer on it.
Yeah.
And I use it for a lot of different applications. And I really like doing that, having 2 or 3 different rods that I can throw a lot of different baits on, as opposed to having one rod for each type bait. I mean, I've never been a big fan of that. I'd rather have one rod that I can throw 6 or 7 different types of baits on. Because then all I've got to vary then is the line size, whether I want to throw 12-pound on it, 16-pound on it, or something in between.
Sure.
That's and I, like I say, I flip back and forth. I don't know that one's better than the other. I know a lot of guys that are really good throwing crankbaits that throw an all graphite rod, and if it's got a soft enough action, I'm sure that works just fine for them. I've tried that, and I've always felt like I had too much sensitivity with an all graphite, and to me, sensitivity in that style bait is not necessarily a good thing, because you want a little bit of delay there so that the fish actually gets hold of the bait before you react and pull the bait away from him. So I think that fiberglass or a fiberglass composite kind of takes some of that sensitivity away and kind of gives you a little bit of a delayed reaction before your natural instinct tells you to pull. Colors, man. Tennessee shad you can't hardly beat Tennessee shad. Classic which is a kind of a bone white with a little bit of green, a little bit of brown on it. It looks like kind of like a little perch. And then Chartreuse Classic, which is a chartreuse yellow with a kind of a brown and green back. Or chartreuse black. I mean, you can't go wrong with chartreuse black.
Oh yeah.
But Clun, again, back to the master. Clun said years ago that bass pretty much eat three things. They eat shad, they eat bluegill, and they eat crayfish.
Yep.
So if you've got a bait that mimics a shad, mimics a bluegill, or mimics a crayfish, either in action, size, or color, you've got it covered. And if you've got a color that mixes the two of them together, then, well, I can't tell you what he called it, but
yes, you can.
He said then you could really trick them. He had a different word for it, but
it's called the chacrawl. It's chacrawl.
Chacronery.
That's not what. No.
Chacrawl rama.
Chacronery.
Okay. Sure. There you go.
No, thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah. I got an observation from Hellabass on the YouTube. Says you had a trap on your deck this weekend when you won that tournament.
Damn right.
How about it? Did it play?
Damn right. No. Yeah, it did.
Choked it.
Yeah,
he limit on it. You bet.
This on the beginning of the show.
Where the hell were you, BTC?
Producing, checking sound qualities, emailing people that got something they didn't think they were supposed to.
Telling you, man, that is the most underrated summertime bait.
That's so awesome.
The most.
That was awesome. Eye opening.
So underrated.
So, I'm going to tie one on for this weekend. I was not planning on it, but I'm going to do it now. I've even wrote it on my mini notes. Lipless.
Love it.
There you go.
All right. Great.
What else you got?
Great stuff.
Any more potbelly pigs or any of that stuff?
I don't think so, man.
Okay. All right.
Man, great stuff.
Been an
Great
awesome
stuff.
show.
Kevin, man, thanks so much for coming and hanging out with us, talking dog days, fishing, crankbaits. Oh my gosh, what a crankbait show we got out of today. Just you are the wizard. You do wizard stuff like switch fluorocarbon to monofilm it to win 100K, and just hearing some stories, just taking us back to Columbus, Mississippi, talking to us about how that one went down 18 years ago. It's just awesome stuff, man. Thank you so much, guys.
I appreciate the invite. Appreciate all you guys. I'm sorry we didn't get off into the finesse stuff and all that crap, but
I showed it. I burnt 7 seconds for this dang show. I did it.
Sometimes you just got to do He-Man work,
Yeah, I love it. That's the way you do it, and that's the way you have got a lot of hardware.
Right on, man.
Exactly right.
Amen.
Awesome. Look at
there
it.
You go.
Yeah.
Oh man, look at that.
Love
That's
it.
Brilliant, man. One of my favorite moments was when you were at Pickwick, I think, throwing that WCE one in the back of that cypress field, and I think you got hung up and you were banjoing it off there, and you caught a giant, and you just were so calm, cool, and collected, and you looked at the cameraman and said, "What time is it, man?" And it was just, you didn't lose your cool. It was just, that's when you are living right. You're in the area of the land of the bigs, and that's just good stuff right there. That was one of my favorite.
Let me show you something.
Big moments.
Let me show you something right here, Eric.
All right.
It was 8:54, and the game was over.
Oh,
that's awesome.
This is actually the Brian was my cameraman that day.
No way.
Yes, I turned around to him. I said, "Dude, what time is it?" He said, "It's like 8:50, man." I'm like, "This is game over right here." And he wrote that when he changed tapes the next time, a few minutes later, man, he wrote that on the tape. And after they got done editing the show, he gave, and I don't know, I mean, there may be like porn on this tape in here. I don't know. I don't have any way of looking at it. But I thought it was pretty cool that he made it a point to give me the case that he had
Man, that's
written on
freaking
that
cool,
day.
man. That's
It was,
cool,
yeah, it
man.
was
I
awesome.
think that's cool.
That was cooler than the trophy. You know, this in itself is a trophy. You know,
You damn
it's
right.
pretty dang cool.
I love it. I
That's
love it.
Game over.
Man, that's a good backstory right
Outta
there.
Game over. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you so much.
All right.
Man.
Thank you guys, man. Anytime.
You're the man, Kevin.
Appreciate it, Kevin.
Kevin Short, folks at home.
Yes.
Wow.
I told you.
Man,
ETC, bringing the talent.
Oh, man. Thank you, man.
He
All right.
co-hosted
See you
the
guys.
show.
See you,
See you,
buddy.
Kevin. I didn't know he was still with us. I think it was 3 years ago he co-hosted a show with us. Man, we got to make Kevin like a yearly annual visitor.
Man, I think I called in on that show.
Yeah, you probably did.
I think I
2008,
did.
after the Ike Foundation thing, we filmed with he competed in the tournament and he stayed at the studio and co-hosted it. And man, if I remember correctly, we were talking. I think we were just specifically talking square bills on that show. But man, just an awesome guy. Sat here for 2 hours, broke it down with us. I can't believe that the time went by like that. But just
Me
great
too,
content.
man. Nuts.
BTC.
I'm sorry. I'm
Producer.
Yeah, I'm getting
extraordinary.
distracted by some shit on YouTube. Let me put that away.
Easy to do. What do we want to do, man? How do we want to take it home?
Well, we got a grand prize.
Yeah.
We got to give away,
That's
as
right.
well as a Facebook like and share.
Yeah. What about? Did you guys get your Gills packages?
Oh yeah,
We did.
I've been.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, man. I'm wearing mines. I've been drinking out of mines, right here.
Got it right here. Got it right here.
Let's see if you got any goodies in the goodie bag.
Well, we have a second. Yeah, I'll go ahead and bust into this thing. If you guys watched last week, did a little bit of Gills Gear unbagging. I'm going to try and do it here, standing at the studio without knocking into anything and ending the stream. So,
for their new fall line.
Yep, new fall line from Gills Gear. First thing pulling out of this bag is a sweet Gills Gear Thermocup. It's got the Gills logo on it, Bass U logo on the other side. Keep that morning coffee nice and hot on the way to the boat ramp.
Yeah,
hot coffee.
That's right. Next thing breaking out of here is gonna be the Gills Gear hoodie. It's a hooded sweatshirt. I tried this thing on when I first got into the studio because I broke into the bag like a little kid. And as advertised, as Tiger said, they did adjust the fit. It's definitely a more form-fitting model this year. It fits to you to where you're going to be able to move and be efficient. And just like you stated on an earlier show, it's got that secret little pocket right there, right on the chest. I think he might have called that the Copenhagen pouch. Maybe.
Yeah, he's put Copenhagen pouch in like almost everything.
Yeah. so that's a good deal. Also, we got the packable rain jacket.
Yeah. In the mic.
Got mine in a nice gray. Match the clouds behind me when I'm fishing. It all packs down into one pocket. Super lightweight. Awesome. Store it in the boat anywhere. Won't get in the way. And we got our traditional sun shirt from Gills Gear. They adjusted the fit on these things too a little bit. Definitely fits really well. It's lightweight, but it's UV protected, so it's going to keep those sun rays off for you. But it's also going to help keep you cool on those hot days out there on the water. And last but not least, we have the Tournament Series UV shirt, which is same deal, guys. It's ultra lightweight, but this one has breathable. It has breathable sleeves on it as well.
Oh, yeah, I got that.
Yeah, that's what Brian's actually wearing now. So it sets up to where it's form fitting, keeps the sun off you, and it helps you breathe through your armpits, so you're not all stinking when you get off the water. Guys, if you haven't checked out Gills Gear, really check them out. It's quality stuff, and we're happy to have them on board with the Bass University.
Yeah.
Swag, man. Swag.
there's no gimmicks like that, man. When you're out there on a hot day and you got that breeze coming through, man, you just do this number right here with that breathable stuff.
Yeah. Especially if the breeze is behind you and whoever your fish is on the other side, or you get like this and right in their direction.
Heck yeah.
Put a little mayhem on them. A lot of good comments on the message board and on YouTube about Kevin Short tonight. So
yeah,
good, man. That was a great conversation, and
it was awesome.
E, thanks for enriching our lives tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I appreciate and honored to be here, man. Thank you again for having me on. He's one of my favorites, and just getting to rap with him, Justin Kimmel, you and Riz BTC was spectacular. Interact with the board, man. The board was awesome tonight.
Yeah,
let's give away a grand prize. What do you say?
Yeah, and for anybody listening that is not aware of Epic Eric, where can they find you, bro?
Sure, man. So at Epic Eric Official, that's kind of like my all in page. But then I've got Epic Eric's Bass Lab, and I got some cranks listed. I'm about to bring out some hot -1s and some pretty cool swag stickers. And I showed one tonight, Dr. Crankenstein, man, River Rat, and a few others. So,
and
man.
And you have an OnlyFans as well, right? Give it to the people.
Thanks for that, BTC.
Brian's
I appreciate you letting me say that.
You going off the deep end with the folks over at YouTube.
So guys, tonight for the grand prize, we got a question for the folks on the Bass UTV message board, and that question is: Kevin Short specifically said one reason that we really loved on why a bass eats a crankbait, and it's because it doesn't have something. Why does a bass eat a crankbait when it won't eat anything else?
Yes. Why?
Why?
Those guys are going to get that one quick.
You think?
Yeah. I bet they got the right answer right now.
Oh, first one came in wrong. So, there it is.
What? There it is.
Oh, so many are coming through.
They got it.
Coach Prince. He got it. He came through.
Coach Prince is strong.
With hands, and that is a bass eats a crankbait because it doesn't have hands.
Kevin J. Woods
got no other way.
Was the first guy to get it.
Love it.
Yeah, I actually heard, and this goes back a million years, man. Like we were probably like 18. This is like 90s, early 90s. I remember going to a seminar with Ike, and Paul Elias was speaking, and I just remember this one line from him. I don't know what the hell he was talking about, but I just remember him saying, "He ain't got hands, son."
Ain't got hands.
Yeah,
son.
I was, like if they got it, said the hook, he ain't got hands. I don't know.
That's right.
That.
That's funny, man.
If you watch a Mark Menendez seminar, I think he's got a couple of crankbait seminars. He's done something. I can remember him talking about it, and he just randomly throws something at somebody in the audience.
Oh yeah,
that's
and
a great way to
and catch it. And he's like, "Well, see, you got hands.
Right.
Bass doesn't have hands. What's he gonna use?
That's right.
On the same page there, and that's a really, really good point. Maybe I need to go get my wind on this weekend.
Yes.
I'm rusty anyways. That's probably what I should do. Just go wind around the bank. I just don't have Epic Ease crankbait boxes,
We can help with that, man. We could do some horse trading one day, brother. I'll come down to Lake Hartwell, man, and we go fishing. I'll travel. This is the crankbait boxes that I brought tonight, just that are traveling with me right now.
Yeah.
In the back of the Bass Lab, man. I didn't get the show and tell much, but I showed and tell a little bit.
Yeah,
which was nice. Yeah.
It was great stuff.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
What do we got to do for the people? Facebook, like, and share?
Yeah, we got a Facebook like and share going out tonight. And tonight's Facebook like and share winner is a good friend of the show. We know him well, Mr. Andre Albernaz. Congratulations, Andre. You won tonight's Facebook like and share. Thanks for supporting the podcast as always.
That's awesome. Hey, Justin, you do need this though for this weekend. If you're throwing a -1, it's my little Super Shad TK inspired. My nail polish went on the top of that bait, baby. It doesn't show like it's supposed to, but let me tell you something. You need it. It's an OG double stamp.
Dude, let me tell you about the OG. I don't have any more OG -1s.
Okay.
When I got into cranking, it was like high school. So
Yeah.
I was in the Federation Club with a bunch of old
Yeah.
guys who were teaching me cranking. And dude, I went on like a 2-year stretch where like I was catching bigs in the summer on a big O and a -1. It was always shallow flat, you know, just my eyes were opened.
Yeah.
And it was always burning that thing around, ramming it into stuff. But then I like that diamond dust color, or it was like a gray back shad pattern.
Yeah, Gray Ghost,
honest,
probably.
Gray Ghost. That was my best one. And then my best Big O one, for whatever reason, was like that pineapple chartreuse.
Smash.
One. Yeah, pineapple smash.
Like that. Yeah.
Dude, I smashed him on that one. But I lost both of them. You know, one of them was north of 12 pounds.
Oh, my God.
Actually, that was a regular -1. Big size. I was messing with the big size. And it was that one that was like chartreuse, but they dipped it in glitter or something like that. It was like
it's like they had those crystal glow colors.
Yeah,
crystal
it was
glow.
like crystal glow color in the chartreuse one. It was like they took Gray Ghost and dipped it in chartreuse. You know, that's what I felt like.
Yeah.
And it was a 1-. And dude, I'll never forget that fish. It was like in 2 foot of water. It was first week of July. I remember it because it was July 4th weekend. And I got to finally go to this, 80-acre track that supposedly had them. And I only got to go once in my life. And it was in high school. And it was some neighborhood lake or something, but they had them. And I do every bit of 12, 13 probably. I mean, it was crazy. And she like, I had an old Fluger reel, like with this old rod, and she locked my drag up and I couldn't click it. I tried to click the thumbnail, the thumb bar, and it like everything locked up. And she was just on a surge after she jumped like 3 times or tried to jump and then just popped 17 pounds.
Oh, man.
Dude, it was ridiculous. I actually had 17-pound mono on because it was not too, I feel like that was the same year or a year after Kevin Short won that one tournament.
Oh, wow.
Maybe that was it. Yeah. Anyways, taking me back, but
you got busted off on 17-pound mono?
Yeah, my reel locked
heavy
up.
line.
She went. Yeah, I mean, dude, it was the old days. There was nothing wrong with it. She just, she got around something and dogged me, and it was one of those things where she had the rod. I mean, our gear, especially back then, that was 15 something years ago. Yeah. Our gear is not made for 10-pound bass. It's made for 3 and 4 pounders.
My 8-pounder I caught on a 4-foot trout rod.
Well, and
that's
there's
amazing.
Exceptions to the rule.
In 1985, 4 or 5.
Good night,
if you think about it, I had this happen to
probably
me. This
clear blue fluorescent strand.
Yeah.
I threw it. I didn't throw the gold though. I couldn't do it.
Dude, the thing is, when you're fishing in a foot or 2 of water, that fish ain't going down, and like it thing's screaming out of there. Like if you think really shallow water fish, like you get a 10-pounder in a 1.5 feet of water, the thing's just gonna take off. At least in my scenario where there wasn't a bunch of grass and stuff to bog down in. So yeah, she completely overpowered my tackle, and I can't get that one back. I've got I definitely have not caught the biggest bass I've ever hooked. That in my hands. I've got 2 fish that I think were bigger than the 12-pounder that I caught, and then maybe a third in Mexico, but I can't really know. That did not get in the boat. It's like a different animal when you hook something in the double digits.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I only caught a few, but I'm sure some Florida guys looking at me, just laughing at me like, "Oh, I do it every weekend."
Different day, man. Different day.
I caught a
different year
sailfish
now.
on 15-pound mono. but there was no structure.
Yeah. That's pretty cool that you can do that.
I mean, that was
boat's
the rig.
like backing down on him, right?
Nah.
I mean, no?
They were probably 35, 40-pound sailfish.
Doesn't matter. That's still extraordinary, man.
Yeah, well, but it's open water, so.
Eric, and he did it in a black nitro, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt in the middle of summer in Florida.
Cut off jean shorts.
Yeah.
and
awesome.
work
May or may not have been around an off limits reef too.
with a couple German tourists in the boat.
Yeah.
Oh my
Blondes.
Dang, crazy.
Hey,
Good
Kevin
stuff,
J. Woods,
man.
if
Good
you're still
stuff.
on YouTube, send your info to Alex somehow. We got something for you. If you
Yeah,
do
me
that.
too.
Is that the
And
producer's
Alex,
pick?
That's the producer. Well, it's the guy that gets the hands first. Producer's pick tonight. I mean, there were some good ones.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there were some good ones.
Producer's pick. I dig it.
I mean, Sean Lay's tearing it up. He just got married. Congratulations. Swim school was all over it tonight. You know, all the usual subjects. Outdoor Jack, he was wild. Scott Easel over there. But anyhow, let's wrap this
Fun
up.
show.
Benjamin Ripple. Benjamin Buttons.
Awesome. Well, I've got no closing monologue, but to just say, wow, that was a lot of awesome information. I hope you guys got something out of it. If you want anything more like what you heard tonight, you need to get over to bassu.tv. That's what we're doing. We're completely committed to helping you catch more and bigger bass. And we do it in the form of classroom seminars, on-water training videos, shows like tonight, interviews with the best anglers out there, guys who are like Kevin, experts at their craft. So I think the four of us sitting here definitely got something out of tonight. You know, all got notes and things that we're looking forward to trying the next time we're out on the water, and I hope you do too. So
Yes.
for my co-host Eric tonight, thanks for joining us. BTC, I'll send it back to you to wind us out.
Yeah. Just and again, to follow up, man, the member benefits with Bass U are outstanding. And for anybody listening, check out Empire Covers, 15% discount. Use the code BASSU21. The member benefits are deep, man. Deep. There's a lot.
Yep.
Stuff pays for itself in 1 or 2 orders. And this past year, we had a Tackle Warehouse discount for what was it, a month, JK?
Yeah, it was a month long, or no, it was like I want to say a little more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're gonna do something like that again in the fall.
Yeah, that was ridiculous, dude. It was a big Tackle Warehouse discount. So
yeah,
you can
Let's
pay
do
for
it
your
again, man,
subscription
if
right
we
there.
can.
Yep. All right, guys. Epic Eric, you were amazing tonight, dude.
Yeah,
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it once again, man.
Thank you.
Love to do it again when you need me.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna roll out to that there. Thanks, Rich. Rich, shout out to you.
Nice.
He's all over it. My man.
Yep.
You guys rock, man. Rizzo, BTC, JK, man, professional fish head. Forget about it. Nobody better in the game.
All right, man.
Catch us next week,
Yeah,
Tuesday,
right
7
on.
p.m.
That's it. Peace.
All right.
Moment on the water not spent fishing is a moment wasted. That's why Minn Kota and Humminbird have joined forces to bring you the One Boat Network. Products that communicate and integrate to help you take full command of your boat. Born from our commitment to making the most advanced fishing gear even better by making it work together. The One Boat Network will help you find, get to, stay on, and catch more fish. When One Boat Network products talk to each other, they can navigate your boat automatically. They can give you a crystal clear view of what's below with no messy wires. And they can let you lower, raise, and change shallow water anchor modes from anywhere on the boat. But that's just the beginning. We're never done innovating, integrating, and making your boat simpler and easier to control. All so you can make every second on the water count.
Tackle Warehouse is proud to sponsor the FLW Pro Circuit and is the official tackle retailer of FLW, providing proven bass fishing gear as well as the newest and hottest tackle. Our friendly and knowledgeable customer service staff can help you every step of the way. And we offer free ground shipping on orders over $50. Tackle Warehouse. Everything for the bass angler at the lowest prices. Guaranteed.
I have to be constantly on the lookout for new techniques to stay on the top of my game.
Giant.
Some have been more successful than others.
Giant.
The finesse fingernail.
Happens every time.
The chain gang.
Ah, broke it off.
The crow's nest.
Never let go.
And don't even get me started on tackle management, especially trying to stop rust and corrosion. Peanut butter.
Not good.
Motor oil.
Gotta keep the rust off all these baits.
WD-40.
Gotta keep the rust off.
Silica, toothpicks, Q-tips, the list goes on and on. I'm hard on tackle, I fish fast, I need my tackle organized and protected. I can't be worrying about losing baits to rust. And when it comes to tackle management, there's only one solution. Flambeau Tackle Storage Systems with Z-Rust technology. The original anti-rust tackle box. Uncompromised clarity. Renowned durability. The infused anti-rust option that is FDA safe and free of harmful chemicals. The organization options are endless, but there's only one. One box, one anti-corrosion technology, one family-owned, American-made brand, Flambeau Z-Rust Tackle Solutions. Preserve, perform, repeat.